Welcome everyone to episode 121 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm here with Owen. No Doug this week. He is sick, so we're back to our now usual two-person
Two-person
podcast.
pod.
We're going to be talking about two movies: The Phoenician Scheme, Wes Anderson's new movie, and From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. As you could tell by the title, the latest entry in the John Wick franchise. We're
Yes.
going to talk about what we watched this past week, but first, I'll mention quickly what Owen and I were just talking about before we started recording is that now we have open submissions if you want to audition to act in our film on Backstage. They're available. Owen posted them on his Twitter page as well as the 10 Dates Twitter page. I don't know if he posted it on Instagram as well, but
I did not yet. I
um,
will.
yeah, by the
And I
time this
made
goes
I
up,
made
it
a TikTok
probably will
video
be
about
up
it.
there.
If
Yeah.
you are local to the Boston or surrounding area, definitely a big opportunity for you. Of course, if you're not, there's still it's still an opportunity because we could still potentially cast you. But the closer you are, it is an indie film,
Yeah.
so travel is a big part of that production
Yeah.
budget.
Big
So,
expense.
but if you are never acted before and a ton of things, uh who knows, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I mean, we're currently trying to get 11 roles booked, but there are more roles that we aren't searching for right now,
Yeah.
that we could potentially cast down the line, and also extra roles for people who are local. That'll be a later thing, but a lot of opportunity
Yeah.
to be in a feature film, so if that interests you. Here's your chance.
Yeah. And like Owen said, I mean, if you guys have been listening to the podcast, then you're probably familiar with the plot of the movie. So the 11 roles we're casting are the lead of the film, and then the 10 dates that she is going
Yeah.
on. But yeah, like you said, there'll be, I mean, we'll probably just either mention it on the podcast or elsewhere on social media when
Mhm.
other roles are open for casting as well. So
Yeah.
that's something to
They're pretty
keep
big
a tab
roles.
on.
I was I eventually was like, okay, they are supporting roles, but in terms of like the sections, it's like they are the lead in that section. It's pretty much like it's kind
Yeah.
of broken into like 10 short films. So if you think about it that way, it's like you are the lead of that short film if you're that
Yeah.
supporting role there. So they're pretty prominent roles. It's not just a couple lines. You have a whole section kind of dedicated to you. So
Yeah.
it's a
Exactly.
good gig if you're an actor. It's very actor friendly.
Yeah, for sure. We can get to the usual pod stuff then, talk about what we watched this past week. Do you want to take it away first?
Yeah, I had like an interesting week because I didn't watch like a insane amount of movies, but I watched a lot of
Same here.
good movies.
Okay.
I started with Selena and Julie Go Boating,
Right.
the Rivette.
What did you rate this?
I gave it a 3.5,
Okay. I
and
was expecting it to be higher. When I saw you log, I know that 3.5 is very
yeah,
solid for you, but when
no,
I saw you log it at 3.5, I was like, oh, were you
I might need
disappointed
to.
perhaps?
I don't know. I might need to revisit it. I will revisit eventually. I think it is tough. Um, I was talking to someone about this a couple days ago, and I'm in a weird spot right now with movie watching because for me, when working on a project, when I'm looking at movies, I'm like looking for things, and it's a very different experience, and it's a different viewing experience when I'm like looking for things, like, and it's also it's a 3 hour movie, so it's tough to like, if you're like kind of out of it a little bit, but no, I don't know. I like him as a director. I I don't know. I have to revisit it in like a different headspace. It's not a bad movie, of course. It's a good movie. I just was expecting to like it a little more, but maybe not the time for it. um, and then I watched Bitter Moon, um,
Right.
with Hugh Grant and company, and this movie is really great. I gave it also 3.5, but I kind of edging towards the 4 there. Um,
Just edging a little bit.
really good movie. Um, and then I watched Band of Outsiders,
Mm.
which I gave a 4.5 to.
Yes.
This is another 60s Godard that I hadn't seen yet. There's a lot of, I mean, it's a great period for him. Really good. Um, I don't know. There's a little like editing things that he does in the 60s that kind of catch you off guard because of how like modern, or you if you just see other 60s movies and then you watch something that he was doing. It's very like there's kind of the opening credit scene where it's kind of flicking back and forth. There's like
Yeah.
a little flicker sequence, I mean, I wouldn't categorize it as a flicker, but I don't know. There's just really fast editing. It almost is like it's very modern, but it's fascinating to see because it's 60s. It's 60s people, 60s cameras, whatever. But just totally ahead of its time editing. Great film. And then I watched the Phoenician Scheme, which we'll talk about. Um, and then I finished The Mother and the Whore, which was another French film that I was kind of blown away by.
Yeah.
This is also a long movie, but unreal, unreal, and does kind of fit the theme of like I'm looking for specific things and I'm finding them, and
Yeah.
trying to. I've been gravitated towards these like French films that have a lot of dialogue, as I've been writing and thinking about like writing in movies and kind of just words. Really
Yeah.
incredible movie. Then I watched Ballerina, and then I just finished it this morning. I've been doing a lot of like starting movies at like midnight and then watching
And
like
then
half of
watching
them.
them in the
Watch
morning.
half
Yeah.
of them, then wake up and then just
It's a good way to like fit it into your day
yeah. Also, because
sometimes where
especially like
it's
these,
like
and
right
this
before
is not a
bed.
long this is not a long movie, but like with the Mother and the Whore, it's like okay, it's 3 hours. Let me watch an hour and a half before bed, and then watch an hour and a half when I wake up. Um,
Oh, I just saw the movie that you're about to name. Wow.
yeah. This Cleo from 5 to 7, Agnes Varda is like one of the best movies. I was kind of blown away by the images in this film and
Yeah.
the overall like it's so I love how like bright it is for it's a black and white film. Well, there's like color in the introduction, but like it's black and white for like 90% of it. But it is so colorful. I guess it's there's something to
Yeah.
the white that I really it's so beautiful. But also there's some really striking images that kind of floored me. And with Varda, I have seen maybe one or two of her like documentaries from like, you know,
Mhm.
late document like 2000s documentaries. So very different like formal films, and I watched those for like school. I really like those films, but I don't know. There was something special about this like 60s French, narrative film, which kind of blew me away. A really great film. So
Yeah.
I gotta check out. I mean, it's her filmography is kind of interesting. I don't really know exactly where to go from here, but there's some of those earlier kind of narrative films I'm interested in checking out for sure because I don't know I didn't know what to expect. But there was specific images in the film that kind of was like it really blew me away. So that yeah I don't know. There's a lot of like really kind of canonized like crazy French films that I watched this week. But so it's kind of short week in terms of viewing, but like three heavy hitters there, and some good solid other ones as well.
Yeah. I really have to watch that movie. I before I go, I was curious. I wanted to ask you before we started recording. Is there something going on with your wall?
Oh
Is this a
yeah.
different setup that we've got here?
Oh no, I don't know that. Nothing changed.
Okay.
This has been like this for the past 120 episodes.
Are we sure?
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like something looks different.
No, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It
You didn't want to talk about that?
well, just like, sometimes the room
Yeah.
changes a little. Sometimes posters move
Sometimes.
around.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you get a new light. Sometimes
Yeah.
new sheets on the bed.
Okay. Well, we can't see your bed, but
Yeah, but I can see yours.
you can't see the sheets, so
Yeah,
they're covered by
the blanket,
yes,
the
and the comforter.
the Smurf blanket.
Would you say that this is a green or a blue blanket?
It's blue.
What the fuck, man?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Me and my
That's
girlfriend
so
argued about it.
blue.
She's like, "It's a blue blanket." I'm like, "It's green."
Well, maybe like
In person, it looks a little. The lighting is really helping it look blue
yeah,
right now on
maybe
your
like
screen. I'm
bring
not
it
gonna lie.
closer.
In person, it looks more green.
That's very blue, Kevin.
But she says it's blue, and I'm like, that's my green blanket. Like, what are you talking about? But the light on
Yeah,
the webcam is just making
and
it
this
look
is
like
my
bright blue right now.
green wall.
Anyway, okay, all right. I didn't watch a lot this week. It was pretty. I guess I was. I guess I was a little bit busy. I also have been watching a lot of like Arrested Development
Oh,
recently.
jeez.
I'm like binging through Arrested Development, just like the funniest show that I've probably ever seen. I started watching a little MasterChef as well. The new season uh, started, and then on top of that, tomorrow, as of recording this, is the first episode of Love Island UK. So
Oh,
then I really won't
wow,
be new
wow,
season. So I really won't be watching
wow.
movies for the next 8 weeks.
Gonna be hard to
Uh,
kinda track you
yeah,
down, drag you down.
movie wise, I really did not watch a lot. I went to see a movie that we're not talking about, but a smaller new release that I really like have thought about a lot and loved and just think is like adorable. This movie Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. I
Oh,
don't
I
know if you
did
saw the
see
trailer for this
I
in
did not
theaters.
see I've seen, like, some advertisement around.
I have never the only advertisement I've seen for it is in the form of watching the trailer before movies in theaters. I've not
Mm.
seen it mentioned anywhere else
Yeah, I
other
think I
than
saw
like
it in, like, a book club or something.
yeah, like okay, I guess that would make sense. Um but it's so sweet. It's like
Yeah.
and like not sweet and like a I don't know, like I don't know what I would compare it to, but it's like it's not,
Figgy pudding
it's like well, it's just like very adult, you know what I mean? Like normally when I say a movie is
and
sweet, I'm like
eclair.
it's like a sure. It's like a it's just like I usually say it about like a like a teen
Mm, oh,
rom-com or
yes,
something. Like many of the like
like Love,
teen
Simon.
rom-coms I like. Sure, yeah. But this movie is like sweet and for adults. And it's like the
Mm.
characters, it's like even adult rom-coms sometimes just have characters who are like children, more or less. But like, you know what I mean? Like they don't have like real personalities. Like they don't seem like
Oh,
adults. They're just like they don't have fully fleshed out like
yes.
adult lives. It's just like this is their job, and then they're in a rom com and they're like looking for love, and there's just
Oh,
like not much else there.
like they're like
But
a
like this
puppy.
movie, which is very, very short movie. It's only like a 90-minute movie, but like you really feel like these people are adults, and like the main character is like an adult with like thoughts and emotions and feelings and like um and it was just very sweet. It's like cute rom-com stuff, but then it's also like she's really into literature obviously, and there's like, like the
No, like
conversations they have
Jane
in the
Austen.
movie are like yeah, and like the conversations they have in the movie are like real conversations, and I'm like, oh, this is so nice. Like it's not like the best movie in the world, but it's just like a very sweet movie, and I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm like I would love one of these
It's like
every other month.
Metropolitan.
Like what?
Metropolitan. They
Do you
talk about
mean?
Jane Austen in there.
Oh, okay.
The
Oh,
shit Stillman.
right.
Shit Whitman.
You mean Metropolitan?
That what I say?
You said Metropolitan. It's not a word. I don't believe.
Close enough.
That's where my confusion stems. I thought that might be what you were
Sorry,
trying to say,
sorry, what I was reading.
but
Sometimes I read.
anyway, yeah, it's just really nice, and like I kind of said it in my review, but
Metropolitan.
I was like, it'd be sick if there's just like 6 of
See,
these a
they don't do.
year, um, but they don't make them like this. They really don't.
Oh, they don't make
Looking
them
to
like they do anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's a good way to phrase it. And then I watched this movie. I was in the mood for a Killian Murphy movie. It was his birthday the other day.
So what is
My
he,
go.
55?
Yeah, he's up there. I don't know. He's not 55. He's
They
like
didn't cast Voldemort yet,
I want to
did
say
they?
he's 49. Is he? Oh, he's 49. Let me cook, dude. I'm I'm so on top of my Killian Murphy love. I knew his exact age. Anyway, I watched Perrier's Bounty, which is it's
Oh my
like an
god.
Irish film with like the thing is when you watch some of these like young Killian Murphy, or really just any of like his movies that he does, like Irish movies that he does back home, it'll just be like some of the most famous Irish actors all in this movie that nobody's ever seen. It's like him, it's Brendan Gleeson, Jodie Whittaker is in it, who is in Doctor Who and all that stuff. Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones is in it, who is also currently I don't know if people are keeping up with this. Liam Cunningham is one of the actors on the Freedom Flotilla right now with Greta
Oh,
Thunberg.
what? Oh,
The Freedom
yes, yes.
Flotilla
Okay.
going
I
to
thought
Gaza.
you were
He's one of
naming a
the
movie. I
actors
was like,
on.
he's
No,
on
no, he's
there?
one of the actors on the ship. Yeah. So shout out Liam
Wait, there are
Cunningham.
multiple actors on
Uh,
there?
yeah, yeah. They didn't. I mean, I think Susan Sarandon was like the kind of headlining name. Liam
Oh, yes.
Cunningham
Oh, yeah, I
maybe
did
not
see
as
that. I did see that.
famous, but he's on
Shout out
there.
Liam.
Yeah, but pretty much there's like even Domhnall Gleeson shows up, Brendan Gleeson's son. Like
Oh, yeah, he's big
um,
over there.
yeah, well, he's big over here too. But
He's big over there for, like, pooping in a cup.
what?
Look that up. Look up at that, guys.
Okay.
Look up
Anyway, the movie's like fine. It's like kind of like Tarantino knockoff,
Oh,
like kind
no.
of like still like kind of like really generic crime movie. But there's like one running joke in the movie that I just thought was like so silly to be watching during Pride Month, where like at the beginning, Brendan Gleeson is just like pretty much the setup for the movie is that Brendan Gleeson is like this like mobster and he's like he sends his like bodyguards to like collect stuff from Killian Murphy,
Mhm.
and Killian Murphy's neighbor who ends up like who he's like in love with, the Jodie Whittaker character, she
Okay.
accidentally like shoots one of the bodyguards because they're like attacking Killian Murphy, and she like takes the gun and like shoots him
Oh, yeah.
and kills him. And then later it's revealed to Brendan Gleeson that the two bodyguards were like in love with each other. Like the two guys were like in love with each other. And he's like, why did nobody tell me? And they're like, well, we thought you would discriminate. And he's like, he like kills people for a living and stuff. He's like, no, but I wouldn't, like, I don't have a problem with them being queer. And then
Oh,
he
wow.
just like, and then later in the movie, he's like, later in the movie, like they're like confronting Killian Murphy at the end, and he's like, and you murdered him because he's gay. He's like, no, I didn't know he was
It's so
gay.
funny.
It's like it's
Uh,
very silly. The movie's fine, but like I just thought that was a really funny joke. And some of those like Irish like dark comedies, like they really the humor really hits. Anyway, and then I watched Ballerina and the Phoenicians. Did you see the Saoirse Ronan in the Talking Heads music video? I
I'm
watched it.
aware of it.
I watched it this morning because I did not realize that Mike Mills directed it.
Oh, wow.
And that's my boy. I wish they would have mentioned that when they were hyping it. They said, "Oh, Saoirse Ronan and this new Talking Head." Why didn't
Yeah.
anybody mention that Mike Mills was
Yeah.
directing it? That was
I
a
know,
little.
I wonder why.
Whoa! Don't disrespect my
I
guy.
No, I'm just
Don't.
wondering,
Okay.
you know?
You don't even.
Can't a
Mike Mills
fellow
is a good
wonder?
director. He's a good director.
I never I just I You're just putting words in my ears.
No, I know what you're thinking, and I don't like it.
I'm not thinking anything.
Oh.
You can't imply that I'm thinking.
Speaking of good directors, let's talk about Wes
Yes,
Anderson's
wow.
The Phoenician
Len
Scheme.
Wiseman.
Yeah, Len Wiseman. Now, let's talk about Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme first,
Okay.
because this is probably like the juicier movie to talk about. Although I
Yeah,
guess you'll
dude.
have
I
some
mean, I
thoughts
don't
about
know.
Ballerina,
I'm
but
sure Ballerina was seen by more eyes.
sure. But in terms of like what we have to say, I feel like there might just
Oh,
be at
okay.
least a few more thoughts about The Phoenician Scheme. I feel like it's almost mandatory at this point to like start off every new Wes Anderson podcast by addressing
The
the haters,
allegations.
the
Oh,
haters
oh.
and the doubters who are like, and this
Oh.
is specifically not like people. There are people we know and like even critics who I follow who will be like, oh, this movie's not good, and for X, Y, and Z reasons. But then there is like a pretty big mob of people who are just like Wes Anderson is bad at making movies now because it's just like the same
Yeah.
thing over and over again. And we've had this conversation. I guess we had this conversation about Asteroid City in the past on the pod.
Mhm.
Um, and so we don't even really need to entertain the
Yeah,
conversation.
I don't
I
know.
feel like it's just like something that you have to bring up
I
every
haven't
time. It's
seen one
like,
of
why
his
is this still?
movies I probably haven't seen a movie of his since Asteroid City came out. Um, and I wasn't really sure how I was gonna feel about this movie, just because of being like kind of like, oh, that was good, but didn't
Yeah,
like, for his kind of past few movies. I'm a big fan of his kind of early work, but I still appreciate what he's been doing. I just like haven't been like, this is my favorite movie of the year or anything like that. But I really did like this new one. I
yeah,
liked it a lot more than I thought I would. And I think this movie, like, I don't think he's like a guy who, I mean, everybody's gonna kind of, when a director has a style, they're going to have similarities throughout their films. But I think this is a movie I would be like, hey, this is different from the
yeah,
last movie, and this is different from the last movie. Immediately, like, there's some stuff that, um, just like there's a lot of violence in this movie.
yeah, yeah. We'll get
um,
to that. I have that
no, we'll
written
get to
down.
that, but I
Yeah,
just like, there's just things in this movie that were different that I appreciated, and I think having being familiar with his other work, um, and just like the small differences that really went a long way. But also, I think when someone's this like kind of formally competent, and there's a lot of like really cool stuff, you kind of can sometimes get a little like numb
Yeah,
to it because he has like a way about him, but it's very there's the attention to detail almost. You kind of when you're especially if like you watch all of his movies in a row, you might get a little numb to it. I think that's what people kind of attribute to like him doing the same thing over and over again. But I think there the emotion in this movie and the kind
yeah,
of heartfelt nature, and he's really diving into a lot of stuff thematically in this film that really resonated with me and kind of made it stand out um,
yeah,
towards his other work. But I also think like when someone when someone like him does something like they're similar films, but in terms of formal stuff, you kind of know what to get with the quality of the film. But I think in terms of like which ones I like more, it becomes more like kind of personal kind of preference and stuff I resonate with more. So I definitely resonated with this one more than some of his later works. Not that I think they're bad. I just kind of prefer this one.
yeah. I mean, I'll agree that I liked this movie, maybe even more than I thought I would. I was thinking just this morning when I was thinking about it, I was like, I think I really like this movie, and like I would love to rewatch it.
Yeah.
And it really could be up there for me.
Because a lot of
Against
people
the
are
rest. I
calling
think,
it like a weak Wes
yeah,
Anderson film. Like they're saying it's
yeah,
like it's fine,
absolutely,
it's not bad. Well, some people are saying it's bad, but like some people are like it's fine, but it's like lower tier. But for
yeah.
me, I was like, oh, this is
I think I disagree.
one of my
Yeah,
favorites of his.
I think Doug would love this movie as well. Like I think
No,
he would
it's
really
crazy
like
because
this
I think Doug would
movie,
like both
and
of these movies.
yeah,
Doug would love these movies.
yeah, no, he would. But no, like I really like it. I've been thinking about it a lot, and it's like it really stuck with me since I watched it last night. And then, like to your point, and getting into kind of like what happens in the movie, we won't do the whole plot synopsis thing. But on the subject of like maybe why people uh feel that way about Wes Anderson generally, or maybe even feel that way about this movie specifically, the kind of thing that I've seen referenced a lot, and something that you already mentioned, is that perhaps it's a little bit colder than some of his other movies emotionally, where people are like, oh, the emotions are not there. And I'm going to get to this in a second, but I
Mhm.
disagree.
People
But
are
also I
saying
think,
that's what some people are saying. This is a colder film.
yeah, there's like maybe not as emotionally resonant as Asteroid
Okay.
City, or as emotionally resonant as maybe like some of his most praised
Yeah.
work. And again, I'll talk about it in a second why I disagree.
Yeah.
I don't agree at all. But also I think that's probably like, I would guess maybe what stops a lot of people from either liking his movies in general or just feeling that way about what he's doing currently is like, I imagine at some point, to some amount of people, especially as many people don't really concern themselves with media literacy or take the time to like think about what they're watching, are probably
Yeah.
going to see a movie with this much aesthetic and are not really thinking about what's below the surface. And it's like, that sounds
Yeah.
so pretentious and annoying to say, because it's just like,
Sure.
like obviously everybody's capable of thinking about what's below the surface, but it's like
Yeah.
really a lot of people don't. And it's like, and I do think that like, and we can talk about it, but I do think like what's at the core of the story is like kind of profoundly emotional to me, in a way
Oh
that like
yeah.
I've been thinking about for the past, like since last night, and especially this morning I was thinking about it, and I was like, this really like moved me, because essentially what's at the core of the story from my perspective, and we'll get into all of this stuff because there's like, ideas about religion and capitalism and death and everything, but like essentially it's like the father daughter of it all. and
Mhm.
and not just that, but part of it is like selfish. Part of it is that the main character played by Benicio del Toro, is like a very flawed character, more than very flawed, just like a straight up bad
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And he is like looking at death in the face and being like, what is my legacy going to be? Like, what am I leaving behind? But also, I think you can argue that the entirety of the Phoenician scheme, the movie, but then also the Phoenician scheme in the movie, like what the movie is about, and like this whole like big project that he's leaving behind, is really just an opportunity for him to reconnect with his daughter, and like uh have that relationship before he died because he keeps seeing death so many times, and it's like, and he wants to reconnect with his daughter. And I thought that I found that very meaningful in the movie. Like I think there are a
Yeah.
couple moments in the movie where it really becomes clear that that's what the movie's about. There's a line kind of in the, I guess it's somewhere in the middle of the movie where when they're on the plane and they're talking about her religion specifically because she's a nun in the movie, and she says something along the lines of like, oh, it's about your sincerity of devotion, and I'm like, that's not about religion. Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah. Yeah,
his
yeah.
relationship to her. Like it's like, are you actually like, and it's like, and I found it all very sweet by the end of it, where I was like, I really uh yeah, I don't know. I found myself thinking about a lot of like the little detail, like the family stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a movie with like a lot of love, and that tends to be the case with all of his movies, obviously. And more recently, he's been having these thoughts in his movies about like death and the afterlife and like legacy and whatever, and he's having like these kind of like meta conversations about his own work and all this stuff. But there's always really a lot of like family in his
Mhm.
movies, and there's always really a lot of emotion if you just like care to look for it.
Yeah, I think this is a very emotional film. I found it to be, you know, with all the talk that he kind of gets, I found, a little more than maybe it was a more emotional film for me than some of his past films. Not to say those weren't emotional, but I think yeah, what you were saying, the father daughter stuff, especially how it wraps up, it's super sweet, and I think
Yeah,
there's great. If I would be like, okay, why isn't aren't people saying this is one of his better films, or why are people saying this is kind of not as good as more recent works? I think it's a scale thing. I would
yeah,
say if I'm thinking about this film and his kind of past few films, I think it's just a smaller film in terms of
yeah,
like the sets aren't as big and it's a little more tight knit. And I think
yeah.
maybe that is why it was kind of more emotional for me. It almost like it
Right.
works more on like a smaller scale. Beautiful sets still, very
Yeah,
extravagant stuff. It has all the aesthetic, but just in terms of like, Asteroid City has those kind of big land, like there's a lot of big stuff though going on there. There's a lot going on. Where here it's like centralized. We got this, father daughter story, and we have Michael Cera coming in. But I mean, there's a lot of people that come in and out. But in terms of like, we're really following these main two people, and it's a smaller, way more smaller contained story
yeah,
than some of his kind of previous films.
yeah,
But that kind of small contained stuff goes back to his early stuff that I really like. That is kind of more small contained and kind of focusing on these people. But I do also think that like, and we were saying with people like not really kind of getting the entire piece. A lot of it, like I think, with like the delivery and the way people talk, kind of people aren't really like hearing what they're saying, and it's not really telling you how to feel. It's something
yeah,
you kind of have to like translate it a little bit in your head and think about what they're saying.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was really funny. I don't know about
Oh,
your theater,
yeah.
but my theater,
No,
there was probably like
it's
8 people in that theater, but they were laughing a lot. So,
yeah.
very
I think
funny
I think it
movie.
is front to back like some of his funniest work. Like there's really not, and I'll even we could even maybe talk about some of the specific jokes, but like I really do think that it's like up there with his funniest work. I was laughing a lot. Obviously, we'll talk in a second about one of the additions to the cast
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
definitely that probably just should have been in every one of his movies, but it's better late than never. The thing I wanted to also mention on the point that you were making is like it is like contained in the sense that the the focus on the characters is so small. It is like there's still like the like huge A-listers popping up that you expect in every one of his movies. But yeah, it is really focused on like two characters pretty much the entire time, three characters really pretty much the entire time.
yeah,
Um, but it is also like in scale, maybe not like in the scale of the sets, but it is like it's kind of like a globe-trotting movie. It's like Mission Impossible just came out, and Mission Impossible is like a movie where
yeah,
they kind of like go to all these places. It's like this is essentially like a spy movie,
yeah,
like where they go to several, like they have like a Lawrence of Arabia moment, and they're in the desert, and then they're in like the jungle, and they're in like a
yeah.
nightclub, and they're on a boat, and it's like, and they're on the plane all
No,
the
they
time, like
go to a lot of
traveling, like
places.
they
There is a
go to so many
small
places.
feeling
Yeah.
to it.
No, of course, because on a character level, it's very small. But I just mean I think it's worth like thinking about it as like a real like it's like a big like kind of globe-trotting spy movie in a lot of ways. I
Yeah,
mean, Wes
no,
Anderson one, but
I
even when
remember
they throw in the violence, like it's
when
funny because when Doug and I were talking about Mission Impossible, we were saying that like the Final Reckoning has these as like a handful of scenes in it where it's like, oh, this is like more blatantly violent than anything that they've done in the past. Or
yeah.
like they just had a couple like deaths in Mission Impossible where I was like, oh, they've never done that. But I'm like, that was gory. And then I'm watching this movie and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how did this happen? Where it's like Wes
Yeah,
Anderson is like
yeah, yeah.
blowing people up, and I'm like,
I love
this came
I was
out.
like, so,
I'm like,
like,
this
I'm
came
so
out 2 weeks
here for it.
after Mission Impossible just did the same thing, which
Yeah.
I thought was very funny. But yeah, we could. I mean, do you want to talk
You
about the
what
cast a little bit?
I was gonna say first when you talking about like the spy thing, I remember when like this was first announced and it was like Benicio del Toro and Michael Cera in like a spy movie by Wes Anderson. And we obviously we anticipated it not to be like Mission Impossible, but
Yeah,
I do think yeah, there is some like places it goes, and I think it was funny. It was a funny like quote where he was interviewed. They were interviewing Wes Anderson. They're talking about him doing the same thing over and over again. He was like, I'm trying to do new things all the time. I really am. But honestly, it's like everyone's gonna have their own taste and what they like to do, and
yeah,
I don't expect him to make something radically different in terms of like
yeah.
it just all
But
of a sudden
also, it is just such a
you
weird.
want to I think it is important to when I put on a Hitchcock movie it's a Hitchcock movie
Yeah,
or
that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's
um
a weird complaint to put
yeah
on
I
like a
think
weird
it's like
label to
one
put
thing
on.
not to like his movies, but this movie to me felt different and I enjoyed the differences.
Yeah,
I mean like there's like one early on scene where the plane and the guy gets sucked out of the plane like in half. Like he's
yeah.
that I was like, okay, okay.
I mean, the movie like opens with that. That is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
first scene in the movie.
Well,
Is
I
like,
think a part of the containment of like why it kind of feels a little small is we are in that plane a lot, and I think it's a very intimate kind of spot. I like that like set. That's a great set that
yeah, the
with the
plane's
plane.
awesome.
Because you have, I mean, it's very funny because Michael Cera is just like sitting in the same spot that
Yeah,
the
I
guy gets
love like the
sucked out.
foreground background stuff where like Michael
Yeah,
Cera is just like sitting in that like he just always is in the furthest seat
yeah,
back and he like pops his
yeah.
head
No,
in when
he's
like stuff
it's
is happening.
you
I think
mentioned
that's
him,
very
but
fun.
he's really really good in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and he kind of plays almost like two characters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, not to spoil. I don't know. It's like, but like,
No, yeah, I don't know
I
if we
think,
could probably avoid spoiling that for the sake of
sure.
it
I
because
was just gonna say, like,
it's such a funny joke that like,
I
you
think
know.
I was like, oh, really enjoying his performance. But I think when his performance becomes two performances, I was like, oh, this is like he's unreal. Like, this is really,
Yeah,
really good because
yeah,
him being able to switch to those like kind of personalities, um,
right.
kind of shows how like
But he
you
does
know,
nail the accent
he
also,
knocks
where
it out
like
of the
this is
park. He
it's like
knocks
this
it out
is
of
a
the park.
guy who knows how to do a funny accent and who
Yeah.
knows how to like make the
Oh,
funny
it's
accent
so
funny.
good.
Like
It's he's so good. I think
there
there's a lot of great
yeah.
performances in the film, though. I
Kind of
think
in the same way that like we didn't talk about friendship on the podcast, but like so
yeah,
similar to how like a lot of people have said this, and this is what I was thinking as well, where it's like Tim Robinson is so good at just being like at just like knowing how when he's on screen he doesn't have to do it's just like the
yeah,
funniest thing ever for him to just like be there on the screen like with his face in certain moments like Michael
yeah.
Cera
Now I'm
like
just thinking about
they
like Connor O'Malley and Tim Robinson in like a
yeah
Wes Anderson movie or something stupid like that.
no, but it's like, but you know what I mean? It's like he's so good at
No,
like just
yeah, no,
knowing
yeah,
that like something funny is happening and he's just standing there in the same way that Wes Anderson is like good at like knowing that a scene in this movie is funny just because Michael Cera is talking in a funny
yeah,
voice.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's like all we need. Like it's like there doesn't have to be a joke. Like it's just like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
nature of
No,
it.
it's
There's like a
it's so
scene
good.
where there's a scene where they're like they go somewhere in a taxi and then they're like doing the thing and he asks him where the briefcase is and he's like, oh, I shouldn't have left it in the I'm not gonna do the accent, but he's like, I shouldn't have left it in the taxi, and he like walks over
Yeah.
and, and it's
No,
like
it's
it's
like
not
it's
even
not
a
a joke,
joke.
and
It's
it's
just
so
so
funny.
funny.
It's yeah,
So like
no,
that stuff is really good. And speaking of the two characters thing, I don't know how to say this without spoiling it, but the reveal, let's
oh
say,
my god.
is easily like the funniest scene in the movie. I mean, it's so good. I saw people kind of say that it's like I guess this would maybe just be a spoiler, but whatever. Skip ahead. But like, I saw it on like one of the top reviews on Letterboxd was that there was like a scene in the movie where Michael Cera essentially does like the high school movie thing where it's like ugly girl like takes
Oh,
her
yeah,
glasses
yeah,
off
yeah.
and then she's just like, ha.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
what they
man,
did with Michael
it's
Cera in
so
this
funny.
movie. So I thought that was very like it's very accurate, but I thought that was really funny. Did you want to
It's also a twist
talk
I
at
did not
all
see
about
coming. I wasn't prepared for that.
no, yeah,
Yeah, it's
neither did I. I
caught me
didn't know
off
that would be in the
guard.
movie at all. I mean, it was really a good
Oh,
twist,
yeah, it was great.
but I don't know if you want to talk about some of the other actors. I mean, mainly we'd have to talk about, other than Michael Cera, of course, Benicio del Toro in the lead, but then Mia Thrapleton, who is like kind of
Yeah,
the
I did not
rising
know
star
that
to
she was
come out
Kate
of this
Winslet's
movie.
daughter.
That she was what?
Kate Winslet's daughter.
Yeah,
That
crazy.
that was a shock to me after the movie.
Yeah.
I think those 2 are great. I
Yeah,
think
she's
they're
and
really,
but when
really,
you
really,
look at
really, really good.
her like in this movie not so much because of how she's dressed up, but if you look at like her letterbox page for example and you look at
Yeah.
like the picture they have on there and compare it to like Kate Winslet's face, you're like, "Oh, it's kind of undeniable." Like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
it's so obvious when you
Um,
look at it.
I with Benicio
But
del Toro, so I don't know how you are with the French Dispatch, but I'm like if the anthologies are a little annoying to me because it's tough, and that there's a reasoning that this is inside baseball. The reason why with 10 dates I wanted one person going on all the 10 dates. So I think anthologies are really hard when it's like I love this story. Now I'm in this other story, and I don't really care
yeah,
for this story. So I
yeah,
really like Benicio del Toro, his segment in
yeah,
French
in the
Dispatch.
French
I think that
Dispatch. Yeah,
segment's
it's great.
really, really good. And there's some other ones I don't even really remember that much. So it was kind of for this was like, okay, now we get to stay with him the whole movie. And
Right.
he's so good. I think he really is so good in this movie. And I think him and Wes are great, like they're a great pairing because he is this like because Wes has this kind of whimsy that he's going on with, and then there's almost like combatant nature that Del Toro is kind of fighting with the whimsy, but it like works in a way.
Yeah,
And he's almost like he's an interesting guy to put in this world
yeah,
because he's not like with Michael Cera it's like oh he's so obvious, but with Del Toro maybe you
right.
see him in another movie you're like oh I don't know how that would work, but it's so like the
It's
harmony is
so good
perfect,
in
it's
this
so
movie.
good.
He's so
So
good in this
good.
movie. It's like it's a real like this could be and it's crazy to say because he's such a good actor, but it could be like one of his defining
Yeah,
performances.
no, it's
Um,
I don't
like
know. I really
and just like
I've always been like, oh, he's a good actor, but this was like I really love him in this movie a lot.
yeah, I think this is kind of like the most. It's really up there for me, I'd say, with the most like A plus casting we've gotten all year. Where it's like this is just like the smartest. And honestly, I'd say that that another piece of A plus casting is in the movie we're going to talk about next. But
What?
I know I really think so, but we'll get there.
Wow, I don't know what you're
Um,
talking about.
no, I'm talking about Anna de
Oh,
Armas.
really?
I think she's so good, but we'll
Oh,
talk about
wow.
that in a
Okay.
second.
Okay.
And I've never really felt that way about her, but again, that's a conversation for a different movie. No, but he's like, I'm not saying she's as good as Benicio del Toro, but no, it's really like, oh, it's so. I think it's so smart. I think they like struck gold with it. I mean, he's incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mia Thrapleton, I like
I think
she's
she's
so
really
good
great. I think she's
opposite him
really great.
considering how established of an actor he is and obviously kind of like you said how against type he is for a Wes Anderson movie, like for her to be spending almost all of her scenes opposite him and him
Yeah,
having like
I
an
just I
energy
don't know,
that
I
is
thought
just
she
like
was
so
great as, like,
different.
this, like, nun. I like the nun character. The nun character
Yeah.
is great. She did a great job.
Yeah,
Um,
no, she's awesome. I mean, really, yeah, just knock out from the whole cast. I'll mention quickly like some of the supporting cast. You could tell me if anything stands out. Obviously, I'll say a couple things about some of them, but some of the other people in the cast: Riz Ahmed, Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Matthew Amalric, Richard Ayoade. Jeffrey Wright,
yeah.
Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Rupert Friend, and then it keeps going. I'll say first that I thought and I've kind of like Riz Ahmed,
Oh, yeah.
so good,
He's
man.
really good
He's
in this.
so good. Like
He's really good in
he's
this.
awesome. I wish he was in more of it. I wish he was in more Wes Anderson movies. Like I need that as much as I needed. Like
Yeah.
honestly, like almost in the same vein as like oh Michael Cera's so obvious. Like when Riz Ahmed shows up in this, I'm like this should have been happening all the time. Like, I think he is
Yeah, I
so
would have
made
watched,
for this
like, a whole
role.
movie with just him, that character.
Yeah, I think he should be the lead in a Wes Anderson movie, like, really. And then like, this is just kind of a no-brainer if you know who I am, and I mean, even obviously, I guess for Owen, but when Bryan Cranston and Tom Hanks play
It's so
basketball,
funny.
I mean, just the best. It's
Uh,
so good. I didn't know what to
yeah.
expect because at first, like, they my friend texted me and she was like, "Oh, you'll I think you're gonna like the Phoenician Scheme." And then I was like, "Is it because of the basketball thing?" And she's like, "Yeah, I didn't know like you got it spoiled for you already." And I was like, "It is everywhere in the marketing. Like all I saw,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, one, it's in the trailer, but then like all I saw when I would scroll TikTok is like the teaser of them playing basketball, and so I saw it over and over and over again, and and in that teaser, it only shows like the Tom Hanks part where he like turns and like shoots
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought it was just gonna be them shooting the whole time. So when Bryan Cranston like dribbles for the backhanded layup,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, this is so funny.
And they're, like, talking smack to fucking
Yeah,
Red and shit.
they're like he like whispers to him and like and then he's like, I don't think you know who you're talking. He's like, you're talking about the queen of Phoenicia or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
He's
Oh,
like,
it's so good.
no, he's talking
Yeah.
about your mother.
I think I mean, it's the power of Wes Anderson and the kind of the clout that he has where he can be like, "Hey, Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston, you wanna do this, like, couple day gig where you fuck around and play basketball?" And
Yeah.
they're like this small part of the movie, but it's like Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston, and they're really great. Really funny scene.
Yeah,
Um,
Bryan Cranston is one of like the more uh like modern Wes Anderson regulars that I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
like so on board with where I'm
yeah.
like he better be in every Wes Anderson movie probably
Yeah.
until they can anymore,
Which I
you
do
know.
like. I mean, I've always been a big fan of, directors who will keep people on for multiple
Yeah.
movies, and
Yeah, no,
Wes
Cranston's
obviously
definitely
does
epitome of
that,
that.
a lot, and yeah, I think that's it. Cranston's good as he does a lot of, like, small kind of stuff that, it's kind of again, that power of, like, being able to call up these big name actors, but
Yeah.
it's really, like, making the most out of, like, a role that's on the screen for a couple minutes and, like,
Yeah.
being a memorable role even, like, in a small
Yeah.
amount of time.
And speaking of memorable, I think the other supporting cast member that we have to call some attention to, maybe not even just because of performance, but because of just sheer looks, is Benedict Cumberbatch
Oh,
at
okay.
the end of the movie with
Okay,
just
I wasn't sure where you're going with
the
that.
craziest face that
Yeah.
anybody has had in a Wes
Oh,
Anderson
you know what? I was
movie.
thinking about
Uh,
I wasn't really on board maybe not on board with it. I was like, "Okay, whatever." When they start, like, chasing, like, he starts
that's so
chasing
oh,
and,
it's
like,
so
he's like Wolverine and, like, he's, like,
yeah,
freaking the fuck out, and there's, like, a scene where, like, he, like, grabs the fucking camera and, like, shakes it, and there's, like,
yeah,
all of that, like, chase stuff is like, "Okay,
yeah,
this is not like this." You cannot tell me that this was happening in the last Wes Anderson movie. That was
right.
really great, and I mean
They do that a couple times with the camera because they do this thing where she slaps him and the
yeah,
camera
yeah.
and she like
No,
slaps the
there's some
camera.
really interesting stuff going on here,
Yeah,
and but yeah, he's like it's like a rabid animal, and
right,
it's very like I mean for Wes, but even like for Benedict Cumberbatch, the interesting performance. I thought it was
right.
very fascinating,
Yeah,
very interesting kind of makeup and hair and what all that stuff. But I thought I was more kind of captivated by the performance and
yeah,
the kind of direction of that sequence. Um,
right. Who was the supporting cast member that you wanted to mention that you thought I was going to say?
Richard Iowa.
Oh, Richard Iwata. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was like,
I just
I
in
didn't
terms of
know
that
if I
in
was
that
totally
I thought I liked the character. I thought that every time I liked when he showed up and he had this whole like
okay.
his whole
I don't know if I
guise.
loved the character as much as I did love that Richard Iwata was playing.
Sure, sure.
Like, I think I've thought for a long time that he is just, like, very
Yeah.
funny. He's always been hilarious. He is, like, the perfect Wes Anderson regular, but
Uh-huh.
also just, like, he's just, like, a
Bill
funny
Murray plays
comedian.
God in this movie.
Yeah, Bill Murray does play guy, and you don't even really notice it
Yeah, I'm
until,
like, "Wait,
like
is that Bill
yeah,
Murray?"
they show it as they show him a second time, like, they get, like, a because
Hold
at
on.
first when you see him, you're like, "Oh, I don't know," like, it's just, like, a random guy, and then there's, like, a closer
Yeah.
shot where you're like, "Oh, that's Bill Murray." Like, and Willem Dafoe's up there too,
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
way, in heaven.
They're in
There's a
heaven.
couple people up there. Willem Dafoe's up there.
Yeah.
Who was the other person that was up there? There's who's the woman? Charlotte Gainsbourg is up there as one of the wives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
F. Murray Abraham is up there.
That's what
Like
it's like, it's so crazy.
there's
It's
a
like,
couple of like
we cut
really
to
notable
heaven for,
actors
like,
just
2
like
seconds,
chilling
and
in
then
the
it's, like,
heaven
Bill
scenes.
Murray and all these people.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean Richard Ayoade's great. The character I was like I think the character's funny. I'm not like the type of
Yeah.
person to be like, "Oh, this is like," because there's like a lot of people I've seen talking about how like the politics of the movie are bad, and I'm just like, whatever. But because that kind of ties into, it's interesting, and we could talk about some of the like movies bigger ideas if you want, but like
Yeah.
but something I saw literally right before we started recording, I didn't even, it was a minute before we started recording, so I didn't even get a chance to read it yet, but I saw somebody post on Twitter about this article, and forgive me because I don't remember the name of the writer, because I, like I said, I just saw it a minute ago, but but it was an article about how TV is getting, like, one of the big issues of TV right now is that it's all about money, where it's just like we have nothing but TV shows about rich
Oh, okay.
people.
Yeah.
And like and I was thinking, I've thought about this before, and like it's like, and I've thought about like how much it bothers me that Succession is one of my favorite shows, because it's just like about a bunch of rich people. But I'm like, damn, it works, and it's so good, and I care so much about Succession. But then it's like, yeah, that does sort of hold me back from watching certain shows. Sometimes it intrigues me about shows because sometimes I just want to
Yeah.
watch like dumb rich people be like dumb rich people. Like that's kind of, for example, that's like the big appeal of reality television. A lot of the time is
Sure.
that it's like dumb rich people on reality TV. But when it's, now it's gotten to the point where a lot of our fictionalized television is just fictionalized rich people, and there's really not a lot, Doug and I were talking the other day about the golden age of TV or whatever, and like that era, and it's like that era is, marked by The Wire, The Sopranos, then even later it transitions to like Breaking Bad. These are shows about people who need money. These are not,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
these are not shows about people who have tons of it.
Sure.
I mean, The Sopranos, I get that's a little, but you know what I mean. Like Breaking Bad, like the crux of the story in Breaking Bad is that he needs money to
Yeah.
survive, and that's why he starts doing that. Or The Wire, obviously, is full of people who need money. Like that was such a, and the article starts with them mentioning how, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but how Sex in the City, it's called like And Just Like That, which is like a Sex in the City spinoff where they bring back the characters and it's like
Oh,
modern,
okay.
and they completely just kind of like, a friend of the pod, Sarah, our friend Sarah. I watched a couple episodes with her, and I thought the show was funny, but it's so bad. And what they do is they essentially like butcher these like characters who were iconic for one reason by just making them like super rich, and like their lives are super trivial, and it's like, and none of it really matters. And I mean, they're like wealthy in Sex and the City, but in a completely
Yeah.
different way than they are in the modern day. And so all of this ties back to this movie, because the main character of this movie is incredibly rich, obviously.
Mhm.
And you could make speculations about who or what Wes Anderson may be trying to portray with that. But like, but I thought it was interesting because I was thinking about that specifically in regards to like Succession, where it's like that I watched a TV show about a bunch of rich people with like personal relationships who I should really never care about, because if these people existed in real life, I'd be like, they should die or whatever. But in the show, I'm like, I really care about these people. And then I'm watching this movie, and I'm like we were talking about that father daughter thing, and I'm like, I really care about this like rich
Mhm.
billionaire evil asshole.
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and and so I don't know, I think it's an interesting, I think there's like, I think something is appealing about that, despite the fact that like you don't want it to be appealing, because you're like, how many more uh like do I really want a movie about a rich billionaire who I care about? Like,
Sure.
not exactly, but then
Yeah,
it's
it
like,
almost is like
but
that,
then
it's
you
like
do
that,
it
that's the challenge of it, though. It's like,
yeah,
we can give a guy who is, down on his luck is easy to root for, try to,
yeah,
like, make it someone that we don't wanna root for, but you somehow make us root for
yeah.
is almost
But then
that's the
with this
appeal
movie's
of it, right?
ending, they kind of flip it on its head a little bit,
Mhm.
which I thought was interesting. I think what I'm talking about a lot with these TV shows is that there is no redemption. And this is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a
They're
character.
just, like, shitty.
Yeah. And because the shows don't even really, I mean, a lot of these shows I'm talking about are shows where it's like it's weaved into the fabric of the show. The show is not acknowledging how rich the characters are. Or
Yeah,
maybe if it is, it's like that's just core to the plot.
yeah.
What's interesting about Succession even is that in the end, terrible things happen to these very rich people. And so you're like, but like a lot of these shows I'm talking about, like kind of like it's just like they've kind of glorified and like modernized. It's like, oh, you're watching like rich, like white people at the beach or something. Like that's like a lot of the shows that are coming out now. It's like rich white people living in their beach house and then they're like dating or whatever. And it's like small town, like rich people shit. And it's not acknowledging it. This movie, similar to Succession, obviously like really acknowledges it. And the arc is like kind of from this like at the beginning it goes from like selfish, like self-interested, like how do like obviously he's having these visions of like God or whatever and like the afterlife.
Yeah.
And from his perspective it's almost like how do I like do this for me, where it's like how do I justify all of these bad things I've done in life? Because I thought what was interesting when I was
Mhm.
like reading about the movie, and I saw a couple reviews reference this, and so then I found like the exact quote. But essentially, Wes Anderson was talking about the movie and talking about like people who might compare this character to Donald Trump, which I think is just a mischaracterization. But
Yeah.
anyway, but he responded by being like, the difference is like, I think this character has a moral compass, but just doesn't care. And that like I thought that was really interesting because I was talking. I don't know if I talked to you about this, but this book, The Prince, that I was talking about recently in regards to Elon Musk, because I was talking about how I wrote a paper about it in college, and like, um, essentially the book is it's this big political text, but pretty much it's like rich people and powerful people have to like be hungry, have to like not care about people's feelings,
Yeah.
like lie to them and not feel bad about it. And so it's not
Mm.
about like whether or not a rich person has a moral compass or like feels guilt
Yeah.
or whatever. It's that they have to be able to do the stuff that they do and not feel guilty and like, and just be like, fuck this. And so like tying it all back, what's interesting about the arc of this character is that like that switches somewhere in the movie where like
Mhm.
it goes from like he's doing this for himself,
Yeah.
he wants to like justify his like awful actions so that he can have some place in heaven.
Mhm.
And then by the end of the movie, it's like, no, the redemption is just that like he's with his daughter, you
Yeah.
know? Like, and I, yeah, I don't know. I think that's, yeah, getting into the specifics might get messy and maybe the politics are bad, but like, I do think that there's like something there that I thought was really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know how you felt about that or if you have any opinions about really any of the larger ideas, whether it's the money or the religion or any of what I mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting I thought the religious stuff was interesting. Even I
Yeah.
think even with the I forget her name, the nun character, there is some level of like I forget
Uh,
there's some line in the film where she's
Lizel, or like it's like Liesel,
yeah,
Lizel.
she has this line there's this one line where she talks about like, how she um where she prays, she doesn't get like a response back, but she just kind of like it's like what
Yeah.
would God say,
Yeah,
right?
what would yeah.
And I'll just go from there. I don't know. There was a really
Yeah, there's a
interesting
couple is even the fact that she's like opposed to drinking, and then she's like, "Yeah, we'll get
yeah,
to
but
yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
she like
I
yeah,
don't know. I found the it has a very interesting approach to religion, um, and it's almost kind of like it's good to like think about that kind of stuff, but like I don't know. It's very I don't know. There's it's like not like I don't know. I'm not really entirely sure about its stance or something like that. I don't know if there is
sure.
really, but I like how it is kind of a sweet. There's this kind of sweet moment at the end where, because even there's even like this back and forth of whether she will be able to continue being a nun or I don't know. I gotta see it again, but I did kind of
Yeah,
find those the way it like kind of played with religion and kind of approached that kind of subject was really
yeah,
interesting to me, especially because you have these opposing viewpoints, but also it's the way that like it opens up is like okay maybe we're not as different and maybe we're not as opposing as we might think. We just kind of the way that I view it, I know I kind of like learned to view it in this way that works for
yeah,
me, but it's not maybe the way that you assume that I view uh, it's very interesting because it's like he's like I don't he goes from like not believing, but like also he like is like just like face to face with Bill Murray God, and he's like oh,
yeah,
okay maybe it's real, and as he's like
yeah,
seeing God, I don't know. There's very interesting kind of timeline that they go on and the way that things kind of change. I d that the scene you're talking about where she's drinking is very funny.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I think what really resonates with me and what's like at the core, and I don't know how much of my own personal life I want to reveal
yeah,
when I say this, but like what's at the core of like what has really stuck with me is what you mentioned about these like opposing viewpoints where we take this character who is like literally a nun, like
yeah,
this like
yeah, yeah,
symbol of like good,
yeah,
and then this guy who is like the most evil man alive, and it's like these two people are family, and it's like not only are they family, but then by the end they form like some
yeah,
real like touching bond, and I don't know, I found that like I found that the fact that they had opposing viewpoints, and what I really like about this is like a lot of people in real life it almost feels like something that can only exist in a movie because a lot of people in real life at like will be like, oh, I have completely different political, moral, whatever, like
yeah,
philosophies about life to this person that's like family. And it's like,
sure.
I don't really care to have ties to that person in my family. Like
Mhm.
they'll just be like, like
Yeah,
that person is like a bad person. And this stuff, like, especially in the modern day, has like really like split up families, like regardless of connection. And so, and then there's like a lot of these people who often from a position of some sort of privilege, uh or maybe it's just like what their values are like, oh, like that's not fair, where they're like it's like I don't like, and again, if I were going to use examples, I would probably single out a specific
yeah,
type
yeah,
of
yeah,
viewpoint that somebody has, but somebody will have these sort of like, let's say, hateful like
yeah,
viewpoints
yeah.
or whatever, and then they'll be like, but that's just my opinion,
Yeah,
like we're
guys,
still
can
they're
we
like
be
they're like,
friends?
we're still family,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's more important.
Yes,
and
yes.
and that is like a thing that in real life kind of exists in theory. Like in theory, you're like, that sounds nice, and it really fuels a lot of them. You know what I mean? And like
Yes.
I
No,
thought
no,
that's
yeah.
like what really stuck with me, where it's like it fuels a lot of emotions. Where it's like I've even had conversations with my therapist about this kind of stuff, where I'm just like, oh, like on the one hand, I do like, you feel a kind of guilt because you're like, that is still whether it's like a family or a friend or something, it's like you don't want to
Yeah.
let go of like that connection that like you're so
Mhm,
deeply tied to just because of this thing. But then on the other side of it, it's like you care so much about this thing that it's like, how do I not sever that
mhm,
connection?
mhm.
So it gets really messy and you have all this guilt and stuff, and like, and this movie kind of posits the idea that like they should overcome it, and like and they do. And so it's like, it's kind of like in some ways like a, like a fantasy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's also like, maybe at the end of the day,
Mhm.
like the privileged people have some kind of point where it's like, it is really nice, like it is really nice
Yeah.
that they end up connecting. And it's like at the it's stuff that I've thought about, where it's like it's messy, and you maybe, maybe I'll go the rest of my life like thinking that like I severed ties with whoever for a good reason.
Yeah.
But then maybe one day I'll be, 80 years old, and I'll be like, damn, I really regretted severing those ties. And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know that I ever will. Like me personally, I don't know that I
Yeah.
ever will. Like I'm sure to some degree
Yeah.
I will, but it's also like I wouldn't have done it any differently.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's just like the fantasy of it is so
Yeah.
fascinating. Like that's what's really resonated with me about the movie, is just this fact that like they are so different, and they
Yeah.
still ultimately like end up being a father and daughter in the end. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's really
Yeah.
like,
Well,
because
I
that's
think
so
when you
complicated.
talk about this, like, fantasy, I think what it's very interesting. I mean, you have this dynamic, right, of there's a father and there's a daughter, and you have they're kind of both a little stubborn, but, like, the father ultimately comes to the conclusion of, like, I'm gonna I'm gonna rock with my daughter because she's my
Yeah,
daughter, and, like, whatever she wants for me is, like, the best for me because she's, like, my daughter. And I think there's different I think it would be different in, like, a different like, it's the dynamic there, right? I
right,
think if it was the other way around, I think I wouldn't be as, you know
sure,
I think it is almost as, like, you know and I almost think, like, there is even with, like, the religion thing in here, it is like he's like, "I'm at the end." He's like, "People are gonna try to kill me any day now, like, I'm
yeah,
cool with, like, hopping on, like," it's like I probably need a religion at this point. It's like, I'm gonna be
yeah,
dead he's ready to die, so he's like, it's kinda like that, like, "Yeah, I'll pray on my deathbed sort of thing.
Right.
But I don't know, it's fascinating,
Yeah,
their
it is. I
dynamic.
think there's a lot to think about. I think it's a
Yeah,
movie that definitely
it poses
I'd have to
questions for
revisit.
sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I wanted to ask also before we move on to the next movie because I was looking at my notes and we've mostly talked about everything that we need to. I didn't know if you want to talk at all about or any more, I should say, about just the look of the film, the aesthetic. I One thing I wrote down that we didn't mention is that there's a shot in the like heaven part, like in the black and white, where it looks like straight out of the zone of interest where they're
oh,
like
they do, like,
glowing,
the
you know what I mean? Yeah.
inverted
And I was Yeah, and I was like, "Whoa." Like, that, like, caught me by surprise. I was like, "Damn."
yeah, no, I love the
Uh,
heaven stuff. Um, yeah, I love when they're in the jungle, there's a whole, like, sequence where they're in the jungle, is really
yeah,
beautiful. Um, it's a pretty movie.
yeah,
Some cool stuff with the camera that I enjoy, the kind of, but yeah, we talked about most of it. It's a
yeah,
simple kind of contained thing. There's a lot of cool stuff they go to, but I think the big takeaway for me was just stuff that was new for Wes. That really
yeah.
there's a scene where like there's like these guys up on a hill, and they get all taken out by like assassins or something.
Right, like
Uh,
the Lawrence of Arabia thing that I was
Yes,
mentioning.
yes,
Right,
I don't know, that was really fun. I
yeah,
like
I like
that
that
a
a lot.
lot, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can move on to Ballerina if you don't wanna add anything else. We can shift gears. Very different
Very
conversation.
different, very different.
We could. I mean, I was going to start with something else, but I guess since I already mentioned Anna de Armas, we could start there.
Yes,
And
yes.
I wanna kind of clear the
Clear
room
the
and
air
make
on
it
that.
make it apparent that like
Okay.
I do not think that Anna de Armas and Ballerina is a Benicio
You
del
were like,
Toro
"She's one of
level
the great
talent.
castings of the
No, but I
decade."
really do think so. Like, I was kind of shocked, but specifically because I
Okay,
was like, this is no, because here's my perspective on it, right? I'm not saying
yes.
it's like even totally amazing because the script, which is where I actually wanted to start this conversation, but the script does not really do her any favors. But she has been in a lot of bad movies so far. She is one of the foremost
Well,
like
she's been in bad movies. I was kind of surprised because she's not really been in a lot overall. Like, she
no,
might have a
exactly.
bad movie every 3 years, but that's the only movie she's
Sure.
in. She's like she
Yeah.
actually her output isn't that crazy, which is
And
interesting.
her roles, I mean, in Blade Runner, it's like
Yeah.
prominent. I don't know if that's how I would describe it. Like, but that's like one of the good movies. Knives Out, it is a prominent role,
Yeah.
but it's a passive one also, so she doesn't totally get to shine. But what we've noticed about a lot of these like bad movies that she's doing, whether it is Ghosted or The Gray Man or whatever,
Yeah.
is that it's like a lot of like action slop. And you might put the same label on Ballerina, I imagine, in a minute,
Yeah.
but like and in many ways it is slop because the writing is a disaster, but I do think that what I meant about the casting being good is that it really feels like when I was watching this movie that she is like a person who is actually like, because when I watch those other movies, what like any of those other like Ghosted or whatever, I was just like, this is just the wrong direction for her completely. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
why she's trying to be action star. She was even in James Bond, and in
Yeah.
James Bond, she's in like 10 minutes of No Time to Die, and I'm like, oh, those are actually a really fun 10 minutes. But even still, after seeing her in James Bond, I was like, the action star route is just not for her. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the appropriate route for
Yeah.
her is, but it's not that. And then I watched this movie and I was like, oh, I see the
Mhm.
appeal that maybe other people had already seen before me. Like, that other people were like, oh, she should be
Like
in
that
action
Tom
movies. Like,
Cruise stuff.
yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, Tom
Tom
Cruise clearly
Cruise.
sees something in her, obviously. And after watching this movie, I'm like, I get you, Tom Cruise.
Oh
Actually, like,
my.
I know what you mean now because I really do like she essentially in this movie brings to life a character with like no life in it at all. Like, on paper, if you put a worse action star in this movie, it would be a disaster. Like,
Mhm.
it would be so bad because of how bad the script is that like they would not be able to make it work. But the scenes where, and again, this maybe makes her sound like a worse actress, but the scenes where she's not talking and
Oh,
just
man.
like doing action, she is awesome in them. Like, I think she is, like,
A
really,
really
like,
great
present.
stunt double.
Sure, but just, like, her being there,
Sure.
like,
You're
it's
like
like,
yeah, you're a big fan of her
I
being
I do think, like, when she's because when she ta the problem is when she talks, it's like the dialogue is
oh,
just bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not her
It's not
talking,
her voice.
it's the dialogue. Like, the dialogue in this movie is bad, like,
Mhm.
really bad.
Yeah.
But I think there is, like, an appeal there that I just didn't see about her
Okay.
before. Like, I have pretty much been out
Oh,
on
wow.
her since, like, post Knives Out. And Knives Out, I was like, "Oh, I see why this person's getting a lot of hype." Obviously, like, a lot of hype she has
When I was out, I
gotten
was like,
is
"Who the hell is this?"
sure, but,
This
like,
is like Knock Knock 2, actually, this is a Knock Knock
I
sequel.
have not seen Knock Knock,
No, but
but,
it's like Keanu Reeves.
oh, true. That's what you
It's
meant. I
a
didn't know.
great
I thought you meant as, like, plot. I was like, I don't know how
no,
this could
no,
be
no, very
connected to
different
Knock
plot.
Knock at all. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just, like, I think and again, part of it is maybe just that the action is so fun that maybe it's not her, but I just, like, I had a lot of fun watching her. Like, I really think she's good in this movie. A plus casting might be a reach. I don't think that it's A plus casting, but I think that this is, like,
Uh,
the first time where I've seen her lead a film and have been like, "Oh, I get why they're trying to make her a movie star." Like, and in the past, I was just like,
interesting, interesting.
I don't think she has it, like, at
Yeah.
all. Like, not maybe not that she doesn't have it, but, like, Doug, obviously, if Doug was on this episode, he would defend her with his life. Like, he has been on the front of the Ana de
Yeah,
Armas, like, train for who knows
it's
how
a
long now.
bullet train.
And, like, and some of these movies that he would defend, obviously he was so excited to do our Ghosted pod movie
Yes.
that ended up being a disaster. Like,
Yeah.
he would defend her doing anything. And
Mhm.
you and I talked about on Ghosted how, like, what's
Uh,
going on here, right? But I think I kind of see Doug's
um,
perspective now, is what I'd say. Maybe it's more
okay.
like let's call it a B plus
Yeah,
casting.
you can be in
Let's
the
call it
caboose of the train.
yeah, let's call it, like, she got an 88 on the test.
Okay,
She, like,
88.
it's a
Pretty
good,
good.
she's, I don't know. I really do think she's great.
Wow.
I'm assuming you disagree.
Um, I don't know. I think she's a good actress, or like I think she is above average. But I don't think this movie. I don't think she really did much for me in this movie.
Okay.
But I overall just think that's more the style of these movies. Because I don't really like love Keanu in the John Wick movies, so I don't think if you were
You love him
going for a
elsewhere.
John Wick spin-off like vibe, I don't think like most people you would have put here probably wouldn't have worked for me. I will say the scenes that they're together, I think Keanu kind of mogs the fuck out of her. Like it's like
Okay.
not even fair. Like he just shows up
I
and
mean,
he
I don't think it's controversial to say that he is a
so he
significantly
I don't
better
even like
actor
the
than she
John Wick
is.
character, but he shows up and it's like, oh, there's like levels to this shit.
Yeah.
Um, but I
He's
didn't.
also yeah, he's also been an action star for
No,
over
sure, I'm not.
decades.
There's many reasons for the reasoning. Uh, but
Yeah.
I mean, I just the movie itself, I just could not care
Yeah.
for, so it's
Did
hard for me to like
you
gauge.
have the same because like I hinted at, the biggest problem in the movie for me is that the script is just straight up, like,
Yeah.
awful. Is that what your because obviously your biggest problem is just that you don't care about this world, period,
Yeah, I don't know. There's something
or just,
about
like, the style of these
I
movies,
I
but
think
did
I
you
it's
notice the script is, like, worse than the
clinical
other
might
John
be
Wick?
the word for it. It's just like it's too. There's not really anything for it. I mean the script is bad.
Yeah,
But I don't know if I mean it's a problem. I don't know if it's the I don't know what the big problem is. It's something about the vibe that these movies go for that just doesn't really work for me. Where I'm just like I don't really care what happens, or and there's like there's kind of this there'll be filmmaking moments that I'm like okay that's not bad. But it's like
sure.
it doesn't. I'm like really these movies are always a slog for me to get through,
Yeah,
and they feel really long.
yeah.
So I don't know. The
Well,
script didn't help.
yeah, I felt that way specifically, and I think one of the big flaws of the script is that the first, like, 30 minutes of this movie are, like, us like as much of a slog as a movie's gonna be all year. Like, I was like, this is the setup for her character, and this is what I meant about her performance being good, is that the setup for her character is so bad that you have literally no reason to care about her for the rest of the
She's just
movie,
like a girl. That's
and
what they
somehow they still make you care. Well, because so for people who are not going to watch Ballerina, even if you are, like, it's like essentially what it comes down to is like it's a very generic revenge plot, and you can obviously say the same about the first John Wick movie, but the first John Wick movie establishes Keanu Reeves's character, John Wick,
Yeah,
so well at the beginning of that movie that not only does what happens at the beginning of that first movie make the first movie work, but then it makes the following three movies work, where they have four of these movies that have all spawned out of the
yeah,
first 15 minutes of the first movie, and you care about him the whole way through. The setup here is like same thing. It's like revenge plot, like something awful happens to her, someone gets taken away from her, and then now it's like a revenge plot, but it's so plain, and it's like so ambiguous, and it's so dumb. And like
yeah.
when they introduce like little pieces here at the beginning, I'm just like, oh, like there's a character in the movie whose name I've forgotten because it's literally not important, but there's a character at the beginning of the movie when she's at this ballerina school
Yeah.
where it's like her, I guess, seemingly like best friend at the school, or like her bunkmate, whatever. And like and she leaves the school to like go be a real ballerina. They have a conversation where she's like, this isn't what I'm supposed, terrible piece of writing, by the way, but like this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I don't know if I like blah blah blah. She's like talking about being a ballerina. She's like, I thought I was gonna be like, like an actual ballerina or something. And then so she leaves to like go perform on Broadway or whatever as like as a ballerina, and then like that character is revisited then later in the movie where like Anna de Armas like goes and checks on her like performing, and I'm like,
They're
this
lovers.
is so fucking stupid. Like it's so bad. So yeah, that whole setup, I'm like, there's really nothing here. Like the stuff with her dad, I'm like, okay. The stuff with that friend, I'm just like, this is even worse. And even specifically her character, I mean, I don't recall there being a moment in that first 30 minutes where she has like some defining trait about her other than the revenge. And so like,
No,
like something that's like fun about the
she's just
Keanu
like,
Reeves.
girl.
Yeah, and something that's fun about the Keanu Reeves character and the setup of the first John Wick is that it's like, oh, he's also defined by this bad thing that happened to him, right? Like his
Yeah.
wife dying, and then like they kill his dog. But immediately at the beginning of the movie, they define him as like, this is a man who is like the most stone cold killer in the world. Like this guy is like a
Mhm.
mastermind, and they like
Yeah.
set it up so well, and he like busts it out where he's like living the normal life, and then they kill his dog, and he's just like, I'm gonna fucking start kicking ass. And it's like awesome. But like that same setup does not exist for her, because we watch like 30 or maybe even like 40 minutes of her like training at this school and like working her way up, and there's that god awful line about how she has to fight like a girl, which is like, oh my god. But anyway, like the whole like the when
Emerald
you
Fennel wrote
compare
that one.
them, what'd you say?
Emerald Fennel did,
Yeah, I know she did a rewrite of the script.
yeah.
um yeah, which, duh. I mean, when you watch the movie, you're like, duh. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's like a real big, like, when you stack the two against each other, where it's like established John Wick character who's like cold killer versus like watch this person become the cold killer. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I really want to watch that. Like once the movie gets once we
It's
get to the point in the movie where she knows how to kill people and starts doing it, I'm like, this is a movie now. Everything before that, I'm like, whatever.
mm,
And so I just wish that was like kind of just from the get go. Like, it's like, why couldn't you have shown the backstory of her and her dad, which we don't give a fuck about anyway, and then just immediately cut to her being like, I'm gonna go fucking find these people. you know? I don't know. That's one
yeah.
complaint
You
about the
I
script.
use the word ambiguous. I think that's a good word to use 'cause it's just like it's so like generic in like I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I
there's
mean, how many
no
revenge movies
there's
have you
no
seen that are just
angle. I don't know the angle. I don't
no.
know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's not one. The angle eventually becomes, it's like this is a movie with 90-ish minutes straight of action, like pretty
Yeah.
much nonstop. And that's a better angle, actually. We don't really, the story really doesn't matter because when the action gets going, it is like, and again, this is not your experience, but a lot of fun. Like, it's really fun. Um, I don't know. I mean, me personally, like the other thing I'd say about the script, I mean, I mentioned the dialogue was bad. I mentioned the setup was bad. I I imagine you have an opinion about this since you don't like the John Wick movies, and you already mentioned Keanu, but like I don't think that this. I think that this movie would be better if it was not a John Wick movie. I think like them tying in the world of John Wick is so like pointless to what they're trying to achieve. I just like I
Mhm.
think it makes it worse. Where it's like them bringing up like the lore of the world or whatever, because there's like there's a reveal in this movie later, and I'll just say that we're gonna spoil it. But the villains in this movie end up being like this cult, and
Yeah.
they have like this cool little like cult town where everything's perfect. And I'm like, that was not in any John Wick movies, right? Like this is a new villain,
Yeah.
and I'm like the lore there. Kind of fun. I'm like, I'm interested in this. I'd like to know more about this little cult town you have going on. But to like spend at least like 20 minutes of this movie making ties to things that just like happen in John Wick movies, including bringing back John Wick. I'm just like, why? Like, what's the point of it? It makes you already said that the movie's slow, and that from your perspective, it's going to be slower. It's like, I don't know. Do you agree? Like, doesn't it make it slower that you're just like watching stuff rehashed from John Wick?
Um, I don't know. I found there's something about I don't know. I think there was a way that Keanu could have been used in like a more interesting way.
Sure.
But I also everybody outside of I really did like Norman Reedus.
Oh, you did like him.
I will say
I
that
agree. I
I
kind of
think
also
Norman
liked him.
Reedus
He's
pro-
not really in the movie as much as he
that's
should
well
be.
that's what I'm saying. Norman Reedus provided something across Ana de Armas that worked, and I felt I when Ana de Armas was alone, I was like I don't know. I felt like it was good to have like kind of like a buddy thing going on there.
Yeah.
And I felt like when Keanu was on the screen, it kind of I wasn't crazy about it, but it worked. I thought it was, when someone was there, right? But outside of that, I don't know. When you were saying that you really liked when she was just kind of alone, not talking.
Well,
And
I just like when what I meant by not talking is that I like the action scenes.
no,
Like there's a
yeah.
lot of good action. I
So
don't
I
mean
don't
that
know.
like
It's just fundamentally like none of it works for me. So it's like hard to like be like, oh, maybe
sure,
take this
this
out
is
and
the
it'd be better
problem.
because it's like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess that's
I mean,
true.
it was like, oh, Keanu Reeves is on the screen.
Yeah.
That's the
No, but
extent
I'll
of it
I'll,
for
I'll
me.
say this about your Norman Reedus point is that I think that would have made the script better because what we're claiming to not care about, or what I'm at least what I'm claiming to not care about, with like the whole setup of the movie, would have at least mattered a little bit if they leaned more into the fact of like, oh, this is a duo now for the rest of the movie because
Yeah,
she sees this little girl that he has. And she's like, that's like me and my dad, which is obvious. Also, the only time in the movie where they don't like tell you what's happening, obviously, because other times the dialogue is just like, this is why you feel this way. But when you see the little girl, like you make the connection like a fucking normal person who has the ability to watch movies does,
yeah,
where she's like she has the realization of like, oh, that's like a dad protecting his daughter just like my dad
yeah,
protected me. And so like if it didn't work in the beginning, the dad daughter thing, at least it would have worked at that point if they leaned into it more. Where it's like when you establish that character, now you have Norman Reedus like opposite her. He's like a present character in the movie as opposed to her dad who is not there. And then you would be like, oh, she has a real like reason to protect this little girl and her dad. And then if they were like fighting people
yeah,
together, there'd be some emotion tied to the action. But she pretty much instead, like you said, just like goes off on her own, and then they end up like she ends up like they go back to it where like she brings the girl back
yeah.
to her
Norman Reedus is
family,
like, I thought he was
but
dead.
like Yeah, he's just, like, lying there in a hospital
I
bed.
was like,
So
"What
it's
is
like,
going on?"
I do think no, I agree. I think that's worse than
Um,
having him just, like, kill people with him.
yeah.
Like, I think that
I
would be fun.
I think I do prefer I mean, it can be done solo. I think I do prefer kind of ensemble action pieces, because then
Yeah,
there's opportunity for a lot of dialogue and, like, interesting things, but, like, there's a
yeah,
dynamic right there. So I think those generally work for me more, just because of the
sure.
dynamic is interesting. I'm not really action can
And
be
they
interesting,
get
but
so creative
I
too,
think it
where
is
it's like
hard for me to care about it.
yeah, that's fine. But no, like, it's like they get creative enough to where it's like, you coulda just done this with 2 people. Like,
Yeah.
'cause that's what I was thinking. Like, I think what stood out to me is maybe that, like, and we don't have to talk about the whole like who directed it, who didn't direct it thing, but
Yeah.
like, but there's moments where like, oh, this is maybe not as well directed as some of the best action in John Wick 4, for
Mhm.
example. But like, but the one thing that's like really clear is that the ideas are super creative. Like the set, the like what they do action wise, there's like 10 of them that I could mention, but like some of the ones that stood out to me, obviously everybody's been talking about the flamethrower fight, which I think
Oh, yeah.
is like super. I mean, it's just like it's creative, it's
I
fun. Like
just
they're like
like her
lighting it
little
on
I like her
fire.
jacket in that.
Yeah, exactly. Like
The
it's
little
it's really like that. I mean, it's not something that you see very often.
Mhm.
There's a scene where she like tapes a knife to a gun and is like shooting and stabbing people at the same time. I'm like, that's really good.
Yeah.
There's uh there's all the grenade stuff. Some of the grenade stuff is like awesome. Where it's like I thought that was gonna be repetitive and like dumb, and then all of a sudden she's like, there's like a moment where she kills like 2 or 3 people in a row by like tying the grenades to them and like pulling the pin, and she like takes the guy, like pulls him over her shoulder, and then like jumps over a table so
Yeah.
that the grenade, like the pin gets pulled, and she jumps over the table, and then she's on one side of the table and he's on the other, and it just like explodes on his side. And I'm like, this is, that's not anything that you've seen in a movie before. Like it's very like there's a lot of moments like that where it's like it's so creative. You probably could have done it with 2 people. You
Yeah,
probably
but no,
could have gotten even
it's
more
like
creative with
I
2 people.
know the reasoning is, like, it's an action vehicle for Ana de Armas, like, she's the
Yeah.
I don't know,
I'd
I
love to
just
make her
think
talk some more. I guess it would in this case because the dialogue's bad.
yeah, I don't know, it's just, like, not yeah, I don't know, not my
But I get
thing.
what you're saying. Yeah, she doesn't. I don't know. It is just her
There's
mostly
just not a
fighting
lot of
people. But
things for her to, like, do.
yeah,
There's just nothing I mean, there's so much generic stuff in these movies that, like, I wish they would just go deeper into anything that was, like, interesting. It's super, like
sure.
it's simple in a way that, like, isn't like, I don't even, like, think the filmmaking is necessarily bad, it's just, like, I don't there's not, like, anything appealing to me in the film that, like 'cause there's they're action movies, they're supposed to be, like, exciting and an engaging thing, but they kind of put me to sleep. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm seeing some stuff here of like of her doing a lot of her own stunts in this movie. I was
That
trying
would
to look
make
it up.
sense, that would make sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up because you were mentioning it, and I'm seeing stuff about how she did her own stunt. I don't know if she did all of her own stunts, but she
Mhm.
probably did at least a number of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, yeah, I don't know. I just like what I was mentioning. Like the flamethrower, the grenades, the knife. Like, there's a lot uh, of like just pure like action combat stuff that I thought was really fun. I think it's cool that she's doing it, not her like specific, but it's just like I think she is an actor who I like in this role more than I thought I would. I really thought I would not give a shit about this movie going into it.
Yes, well,
I
I will say the reactions have surprised me.
Yeah,
I never was
I
expecting to like it, but I will say, it is better than I would have assumed it would be,
yeah.
but also I am, kind of a little shocked with some of the reactions at the same
I
point.
just
At
think
the
it's
same
like
time, it's
this
not
isn't
good, but it's also better than I expected it to be.
sure, yeah. This isn't like I don't know. I'm not saying that I expected it to be bad because it's not like a main line John Wick story. Well, part of it is just the directing stuff, but like um
Yeah,
but
everything
also
was
it's
just
just that
pointing to
like
it being a dud.
yeah, it's just that like, and I know Doug doesn't feel this way and other people who are big John Wick fans don't feel this way, but like I'm kind of surprised by how tired I've gotten so quickly of like a pretty expansive and interesting world where it's like what's at the core of John Wick and like the universe that they set up is really interesting. But I like don't know that I want to watch that many movies in that universe, which is maybe why I was suggesting, and it's probably like
Yeah.
only a me thing, is like that this would work better as its own movie because I just
Yeah.
like when they were doing the stuff where it's like the contract killing from the other John Wick movies, or it's like Keanu coming back, and I like when Keanu shows up, sure, like it's like Keanu Reeves, but I just really don't think it needs all of that. I'm like I'm kind of bored by that. It's surprising how little interest I have in the world that I should care about a lot because to be clear, I like every John Wick movie. I like all of them. I've enjoyed them. But I'm just like I like spin-offs in that world.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I
I don't
don't
understand like what the world is just like the world. It's like I don't I
sure.
I don't
There's
the
obviously
world
a
is
lot to
so
the world.
like nothing. I don't get the appeal of the world of John. Like I understand why people might gravitate towards John Wick as a character, but the world is just kind of like, I don't know. It's just like
It yeah, it is the world, but also there's a huge underworld in the
yeah,
movie. Like it's like the world and
it's
then
all that's what this ambiguous bullshit, the underworld, this
okay. I mean
fucking the
now you're
director.
just like picking nits, I
No,
think.
I just
But
like I think it's all like I don't know. It's so like boring.
okay. Fair enough. Um
Everything's like secret and like everybody's in a black suit and
uh
I don't know.
okay.
Where's the
I
flavor?
I guess I don't really have that much more to say about it. We talked about Ana de Armas. We talked
uh,
about the specific like action scenes that I think are really fun. The script is bad, obviously. I like the third act. I mean, I guess you kind of laughed at it. I think you probably hated it, but I like the cult town stuff. Like, I think that's fun. I think
I think there's
because it's like
something there. I think there's
it's the
something there.
most like it's the most like uniquely like
Yes, it is.
standing
It
apart
is.
from the rest
Was
of the world that you're describing. Like it's like that's the
yeah.
most different to what has been the norm
I
in like
kind of
the
like
world
the
of
idea
John
of John Wick being like, all right, you got 4 more minutes before I shoot you.
Wick. Yeah,
Or,
that's fun. No, I mean that's
it's
awesome.
like
Yeah,
I don't know. That's kind of fun. Yeah, it needs some more stuff there. There means some it need a couple more layers on that cake, but
sure,
that's probably the most interesting idea of the movie.
sure, yeah. Um. Anyway, that's Ballerina. Uh, we're gonna talk
Also, they don't
about.
really do a lot with the ballerina stuff. They should have went more into.
Yeah, no, I
It's
guess they
called
really don't.
ballerina. It's like not really.
They do in the beginning, and then
Yeah,
they
I
kind of
know
like
she
get
does
away
ball,
from it.
but like I don't know. It's called ballerina. She should have like
Right.
done some.
Yeah. But I also that whole I don't know. I don't
It's
know that I like that aspect of the world. I don't know that I
it's
like that there's
stupid.
this like school of like orphan children where they like torture you until you're like a contract killer. Like
Uh,
I
that's
just
the
I don't know.
world. That's the world they
No,
want to see.
that is the
That's
world
the
of
world
it,
they
but
want
I'm
to see
like,
more of.
yeah, whenever it's like that stuff, I'm just like, okay, that's
It's
fine.
either that or like Chicago.
Yeah. Like I was saying, we're gonna talk about some news. Of course, reminding everybody that if you like listening to us talk about either of these two movies, you can like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube or rate the episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can follow us at all of those links in the episode description. We've got a big news day, although some of this stuff is like whatever. But I just put a lot of news in here, and I've doubled up on a lot of these pieces of news. But let's start with
Wow,
this one, a single piece of news. Uh, Tom Blythe, George Mackay,
it's
Leo Woodall.
Mackay.
I think it's Mackay.
There's no way it's
I don't
Mackay.
like saying it, but I like
There's
saying
no
McKay,
way.
but I think it's pronounced Mackay. Anyway,
Wow.
regardless, old George,
Oh,
him, Tom
George.
Blythe, Leo Woodall, and Jack O'Connell are in the running for the starring role in James Watkins's Clayface movie.
Yeah. Um,
Uh, I hope if one of
there's
those
one
four
guy
people
on
has
there
to
that
get it,
doesn't exist. So
what'd you say?
one of those guys isn't real.
Who?
Um,
Tom Blythe?
no, Tom Blythe is in Hunger Games.
Who was the guy that's not real? Oh, Leo Woodall.
Yeah, not
You
a real
don't.
guy. Not a real.
Hey, he's in the White Lotus.
Not a real guy.
He's in the White Lotus. He's in One Day.
Like
Did you watch One Day?
one day. I
Yeah, it's a
think it's a
Netflix
Kanye
show.
song. Um,
One Day. Yeah, it is. Um,
yeah, I mean, this movie's. I think Clayface is interesting. Even like I'm not a Mike Flanagan guy, but I think that was an idea. Like he wrote the script. It was like, okay, this is gonna be like kind of serious. And then like it was like, okay, Mike Flanagan's script is now getting rewritten, and James Watkins is directing it. And I was like, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm rooting for like it to be good. Um, I was big fan of George before I heard about his name. So now it's like, um, so give him Leo Woodridge. Logan Woodridge, was that a quarterback for Oklahoma?
Leo Woodall is the name of the actor.
Logan Woodside. That's what I'm thinking of.
Tom Blythe and Leo Woodall, I think, are the people that I
Logan
want to see. I
Woodside.
don't, yeah. To go along with what you say, it definitely shouldn't
Right
be
at
George
Toledo.
Mackay or McKay because he's way too good of an actor. And it shouldn't be
It's
Jack
probably gonna
O'Connell.
be it's
He's
probably gonna
also
be
way
Jack
too good of
O'Connell.
an
I'll
actor.
say that.
I hope
I think they're
not.
gonna say they said, "Oh, I saw Sinners."
Please, no. Just don't let him cook a little more,
I
please.
saw
I
now.
don't.
You know what? Honestly, but with the kind of recent casting, I'm gonna predict right now on the podcast that it's gonna be Logan Woodside because
Leo Woodall.
I think because they do like they cast a lot of TV.
Yeah.
That's their honeypot. That's where they keep going in
Yeah, and he's killing it in the TV world.
they
White Lotus and One Day. So
James Gunn's like a cheap little bitch, and he likes
yeah.
to get the cheap Walmart employees. So he is going to
Well,
dip into television, and he's not gonna Jack O'Connell and George Mackay, too expensive, uh, and they're going to get that labor cheap. So Logan Woodside, welcome to the team.
At some point you'll learn his name maybe when he's in a movie. That's not Clayface though, probably.
Clay.
Next piece of
I
news.
love
This is our
Clayface
first.
in the Lego Batman.
Yeah, this is our first piece of news that I doubled up on. We've got two big pieces of horror movie rights news pertaining
Oh,
to
I
the
love
rights of horror
rights.
movies.
Big fan of rights.
Blumhouse has acquired the rights to Saw from Twisted Pictures,
I didn't
returning
know
it to
this.
James Wan.
Wait, I
Lionsgate
did
will
know
still
this.
continue to be involved in the franchise. The other piece of news is that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre rights are up in a bidding war. Notable creatives and studios in the mix include Jordan Peele and Monkey Paw,
Mhm,
Osgood Perkins and Neon,
mhm,
Glenn Powell and A24,
mhm.
Taylor Sheridan and Paramount, and Netflix. All in the running for those Texas Chainsaw rights. Which piece of news here interests you more? I'm assuming this bidding war.
Well, I remember seeing the Saw thing and then being like, "Oh, I didn't really think about it," and now I'm thinking about it, and it's like, this is kind of big because
It's big,
they were gonna
yeah.
make a Saw movie, and then
And then they canceled
then
it,
there was no
and
Saw
then
movie, but
and now
now
we're gonna get one.
Mr. Wan, which I'm
Took that shit back.
assuming
He's like, what if I fucking reinvigorate this
I don't think he's
franchise?
gonna direct it. There's no way.
Would it be cool if he
If he
did?
directs Saw 11?
Oh, it would be cool if he did. I mean, because he could just like if he directs Saw 11, he could just like completely like if they wanted to take the franchise in a new direction and be like, boom, like new Saw, like let's
It'll
get
be called,
everybody
like,
hyped for a new
Saw something. It won't be called there's no way he
yeah.
said, "Is James Wan Saw 11?" There's no
Well,
way.
because also the thing is like that Tobin Bell is like so
Yeah, he's, like,
old,
old.
obviously, and like there's only so much they can do
It
with him.
makes
So it's like if
sense
they
if
wanted to just like
yeah,
use a whole new cast and make a new generation of Saw movies, bro,
with
not
James Wan. I think that's smart.
he should not do that.
Yeah, I didn't totally like, that didn't register in my brain, but I did see that. This, though, the Texas Chainsaw thing, um, didn't Netflix already make didn't they just make a Texas Chainsaw
Yeah,
movie?
like
Didn't
2
they?
years ago, yeah. So
Yeah,
they don't
so
have the
fuck
rights.
off, guys. You had your shot.
Yeah.
Um,
And it
the
was bad,
Jordan
apparently.
people
Some people said.
well, it's up for debate. I've heard mixed sources, okay? I'll say that.
Somebody told you that the Netflix one is good?
People have said it's not that bad. It has fans. I will say it
Okay.
has
I
fans.
need to I need to go fact check this.
I haven't seen it, so I cannot confirm or deny the quality of the picture, but I know that it has like a really low rating, and the average Joe is like half star, you know. But some people who don't rate movies at all are like heart. So I don't know. I'll have to see it. But Jordan Peele.
Oh, okay, wait, someone I follow?
Hey, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's not like a half star across the board. Some people are like, hey, it's decent. But like most of the Texas Chainsaw movies are considered to be bad outside the first one. Like most people are like, these
Yeah.
are bad. So, I think there's shooters for each
Oh,
one.
Doug kind of liked it.
There are shooters for
Doug
each
didn't
one,
think
but
it was
like it
great.
varies about the amount of shooters. But I think there are
Yeah.
shooters for each of them. Jordan Peele, he wouldn't direct it though, right?
I
Like,
no, I'd assume he just
imagine
does
Jordan
production.
Peele's like, okay, my next movie
Yeah, if
is
Jordan Peele
Texas
did Texas Chainsaw,
Chainsaw.
oh my god, that would be the
So like
I would be
theoretically,
so excited for that movie, but no,
theoretically,
I
that would
don't
be
think he'd be directing
amazing,
it.
right? But I don't think he's gonna direct it. I would think
No.
it would be more of a
I think
him situation.
he yeah, he does a lot of producing now.
It's a him
He
situation, so he's gonna find
yeah,
somebody. I don't think that's a bad
but
outcome.
we could kinda trust him to find somebody good, or at least better than what some of these other studios would find.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
mean,
not a horrible outcome.
if I'm picking, for
Um,
example, between Osgood Perkins
okay, I
directing
don't
the
want
next
that.
Texas
That
Chainsaw
is the worst outcome.
or the guy that Jordan Peele handpicks,
Osgood Perkins
or
is
even if Glenn Powell is trying to get his hands on it as a producer, I trust Jordan Peele's eye for picking a director a
yeah.
lot more than I
I don't
trust
mind
Glenn
the Glenn
Powell's
Powell
eye.
thing. Um, I it's a little worrying, but I don't mi
Yeah,
Osgood Perkins, please not touch it. Netflix,
yeah. I think Doug tweeted, that he'd be interested in Taylor Sheridan, and I'm
yeah,
like,
what is that gonna be, a TV show?
"No, but
It'll
I'm
probably
kind
be
of
a
on
TV show.
board."
Texas
I'm like,
Chainsaw TV? 'Cause that's
"Listen."
you know what this bullshit that's gonna happen? Taylor Sheridan's gonna get it. They're gonna have the Texas Chainsaw TV show, and they're gonna have the Friday the 13th TV show, and the
Bro,
Halloween TV show,
I'll tell you
and
though,
what
I know you're so fundamentally opposed to this. If Taylor Sheridan was writing a Texas Chainsaw TV show, I'd be there day one. I'd be
oh.
watching new episodes every week, bro. I'm sorry, but Doug was cooking a little bit.
No, not the
'Cause
TV show.
Taylor Sheridan doesn't fuck around when it comes to writing. He also like he would understand like what has to go into like characterizing this world. Like obviously
Mhm.
the types of TV that he writes are like perfect for like the grit and grime of like
Yeah.
a Texas Chainsaw show, a hypothetically movie. I mean, he's directed movies. He's not like Taylor
No, I
Sheridan is
know, I
not
know.
only
It's
doing
better
TV,
than Osgood
but
Perkins. Um,
he is just like to get a writer of Taylor Sheridan's talent on like a great piece of horror IP, I think would be cool. I
yeah.
think it'd be even cooler if he were to this is like best case scenario. I don't think this would happen, but like if you get another like good director to direct a Texas Chainsaw movie written by Taylor Sheridan,
Yeah,
that would be like
I'm cool with that.
knocked it out of the
I think
park.
it's interesting that some of these people are separate. Most notably, I think it's interesting that Glenn Powell is with A24,
Yeah.
um, because what you're throwing things at me, and, like, what am I'm thinking, like, okay, what if, like, it was, like, Glenn Powell and Taylor Sheridan produced movie written by Taylor Sheridan, and then they find a guy to direct it, and, like, I think there's opportunity there for, like, a really good thing, but I'm interested in, like, I would like to of course, we're not gonna do it or hear it, but I'd love to hear all the pitches and, like, what the
Yeah.
ideas are
Yeah, I
here,
want to know what the angles are because
because the
obviously whatever
angles are
they're
important.
approaching, they're trying to approach it in some way that's fresh,
Yeah.
probably
I think it's
because
funny that Netflix is just Netflix.
yeah, I
It's
know.
just
That's I also thought that was funny. I wanted to mention that because every single one is like a pair.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
person studio, and then it's just
Netflix is
Netflix.
like, "I fuck it, I guess we'll buy it,"
Yeah, it's like we got the money.
which
Why not?
doesn't I mean, that is also a bad outcome just because of, like, that seems like we'll just buy it and we'll figure it out. But, but, it could, hindsight, it could end up being the best outcome because Netflix could just let a good person make a movie, right?
Right.
But it also just could be like another. But also, I think that's like a safe. Netflix is kind of a safe option where it's like they could just make another one that like they did last time, and it could be like fine.
That has no cultural footprint.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Where I think the Osgood Perkins thing could have
that would be
terrible ramifications of like our universe and like.
yeah. That might destroy the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, this next piece of news, get ready for this. This is a mouthful. It's a chain reaction
All
that
right,
we've
open
got
up.
here. Listen to this chain reaction of news. So, Mikey Madison reportedly turned down
Woo!
Sean Levy's Star Wars film over a pay dispute. It's
Yes,
now being
yes,
reported that Mia Goth is joining the film
yes.
alongside Ryan Gosling. However, Mikey Madison is in talks to star in A24's The Mask of the Red Death, an
Mhm.
Edgar Allan Poe reimagining from
Yes.
director Charlie Pollinger. She'll
Mhm.
be playing twins in the movie, and she replaces Sydney
Sydney Sweeney.
Sweeney, who dropped out of the project due to scheduling conflicts.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
a little
Yeah,
what a
yeah,
little
yeah.
piece of news we got there.
Fuck
I just
Sean
tied like
Levy,
4 pieces of news together.
Mia Goth, bizarre career she's having. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's like, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's like,
this Mikey Madison
depending
thing
on
seemingly
depending
I
on
mean,
the week, the stocks of Mia Goth are like, "Woo!"
yeah, I know.
Um,
I'm actually surprised because I thought, like, obviously we speculated like the Mikey Madison Oscar win could have huge ramifications in terms of like where she goes next, and she has had and when she turned down the Star Wars thing initially, we were like, oh, she's cooking because it's like she
yeah,
is not just going like Oscar, give me millions of dollars. It's like Oscar, pick the right project. And this project, I thought at first was like sounded bad because I didn't know who this director was.
yeah,
But
but
now
for
I'm
the
very
XX,
interested in this director. I still don't know who he is, but I'm very interested in him because I
um,
feel like this could actually be a good choice. Like it
yeah,
sounds
it's
like a
all
good
we'll see,
movie.
but I think for Mikey, it's not even really like I think it's just like, what do I wanna do, right? It's like, what am I interested
Yeah.
in? And these seem to be projects
And she saw Michael B. Jordan playing twins and she was like, let me cook.
I don't know where I can't find the tweet, but it's like I thought it was so funny. Someone was talking about like they're gonna take like the lesson they're gonna take from Sinner's success is that we need more twin movies. And
Yeah.
there's so many like it's wherever it was in the air
No.
the past year or something, the amount of like twin or like doubles movies is insane. And the fact that we're getting more is so it's just so funny.
Disney. Hit my line, Disney. I've got a great script for a Zack and Cody reunion
Oh
movie.
my god.
I've got let me cook. Let me cook.
uh, yeah,
That's actually kind of relevant to a piece of news that we're gonna talk about in a minute.
um Roger Corman did this movie, the
Yeah.
He did, of
In
course, a
the
bunch of Edgar
70s?
Allan Poe movies. Um, yeah, if done correct, I love some Poe. I don't know where my
Yeah.
I had a book over there.
Yeah, Poe is perfect
Great,
material.
great material for a picture. Um, interesting. Like this is the direction A24 is heading, where it's like Texas Chainsaw, buy it, Edgar Allan Poe, make it. It's like different. We're talking with IP now. We're talking with IP.
Yeah, they've gotta
So
keep up with movie.
IP, yeah, IP Oscar actress. Um, interesting. Okay, let's talk in a year or two. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. What about Zach and
Another piece
Cody?
of
What is going on?
Zack and Cody?
Yeah, what were we talking about? You
No,
said
no,
next.
no, no, no.
Uh,
No, that's coming up later. Just give
okay.
it I'll
Okay.
go back to
Okay.
that. Another piece of double news, too. I just had to put these together because I was like, these are random sequels that I don't know that you care about at all. But we've got Ma 2 in the works with Octavia Spencer set to return, as well as a sequel to One of Them Days with Kiki Palmer and SZA
Oh
set to
yes. Oh
return.
wow.
One of Them Days was a pretty big success.
Yeah.
So worth talking about. I still haven't watched it, but I do
I
want
haven't
to. It looks
seen
funny.
any of
It
these things.
it looks genuinely funny. I love Ma, but also hate it. Ma was like a movie I saw at a time in
Yeah,
my
I was
life where
too young for that.
I believed it was possible for movies to be so bad that they're good. And so like me and my
Mm,
friends saw Ma in theaters and we were like, this is so fucking stupid. And we like
yeah.
laughed the entire time. We were like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
And
2019 was a
obviously,
little too early for me.
yeah, she's become a big meme, obviously, since then. People, whether or not you've seen the movie,
Wait,
you're
this is a
probably
white
familiar
guy?
with the memes. What? Who's a white guy?
I clicked on Tate Taylor, the director of Ma, and I just
Oh,
wasn't prepared for like this generic white guy to appear.
okay. I mean, many such cases if you just click on
It
the
just shocked
letterbox
me. I
page
don't
of a
know.
movie director.
I
Um,
just it just shocked me.
but yeah, the One of Them Days thing I
Because
think
he
is
also
interesting because
directed The Help. Um,
oh, with Octavia Spencer in it.
yeah,
So that
which
makes sense.
Octavia Spencer is a good actress.
A great actor. And I think these are two notable pieces of news because Octavia Spencer is in a demographic where it's like this is a really like like this is a demographic that you don't expect to lead a movie specifically because
Yes,
like we've talked
55-year-old.
Yeah, we've talked before about like older women like struggling in Hollywood. Like obviously Hollywood, the difference between men and women in
Yeah,
Hollywood
yeah,
is that they care a
yeah.
lot about that. Like older men could have the long shelf life, and older women kind of can't. So
Mhm.
like for her to be
55-year-old
leading
leading
a
lady.
sequel where it's like that, it's like
Shout
successful enough
out,
for them to
Ma
have a
too.
sequel.
What
Plus
is
like
Ma
no,
about?
yeah, plus notably with like one of them. Oh, what is it about?
Yeah, what is
It's
Ma?
like this like group of high school kids who like meet this woman, Ma, Octavia Spencer's character,
Is
and
her
they're like,
name is Ma?
no, they just like call her Ma because
Oh,
essentially what happens is like they meet her and they're like, "Oh, can you like buy alcohol for us?" Because they're like high schoolers. They see
yeah.
her at like the like a liquor store. They're like, "Hey, like if we give you the money, can you buy alcohol for us?" And then she's like, she like wants to be like cool and hip, and
Uh-huh.
she's like, "Yeah, I'll like I'll buy you guys the alcohol," and then like and blah blah blah, and then it turns out that she's like really creepy and she starts like texting the high schoolers and being like, hey, when are you so
Oh,
she's
what
like,
the
hey, by
fuck?
the way, like if you guys need a place to drink, you can use my basement, like you guys could have parties in my basement. I'm not, it's like I'm just living by myself. And so they start like having
What the
parties in her
fuck?
basement, and then she's like texting people and she's like, when are you guys coming back to Maz? And it's like
What the fuck?
she's like she gets really creepy about it and like obsessed with these like high schoolers and like really interested in like what's going on because she's like this lonely middle-aged woman
What the
who
fuck?
like
And then
it's
she
like on paper it's actually a really creepy
and
idea.
then
Like it's like
there's
it's
a
like
sequel.
yeah, now there's going to be a sequel, but no, I think it's also notable where it's like we talked about or we didn't talk about this, but I think I talked about it with some other movie where it's like one of them days is very notable because uh people forget that like if you make movies specifically like for a black crowd, like led by black
Yeah.
actors. We talked about this with Black Panther. We talked about like these movies
The
are often
Blackening had
huge.
a pretty good show,
Yeah, like
uh,
these movies are often
what was
like
called
huge
people
successes.
showed up.
Yeah, they're huge successes. They have like great turnout, and people are like, why? Are, like
Yeah.
often, I'm like, why are you not making more of these movies for an
Mhm.
audience of people
Mhm.
who like would fly to theaters to go see this stuff? And
Yeah.
it's like, and one of them days, like I said, was like a really successful, and now successful enough to get a sequel. So I think that's notable. Obviously notable because Octavia Spencer, like I said, like it's like this is a middle aged black woman who like you wouldn't really, with the exception of maybe Viola Davis, like how many
Yeah.
people in that
But even
demographic
Vi
are like leading
I even think
a
Viola
movie?
Davis, even though she is considered, like, the
She's like a
great
movie
she's
star. She's
even
like,
though she's considered, like, one of the great actresses, I just still don't think she gets enough. There's not enough roles for her even.
yeah.
Like,
Well, she's doing like streaming
there's
slot
not
right
enough
now.
great
She,
roles for her, even though
I
she's
don't know.
considered, like, like, I thought of it was very, very interesting when Timothy Chalamet, brought her name up, and everyone kind of agreed, like, okay, yes, talent-wise, she is and she has done great work, but, like, in terms of, like,
Yeah.
filmography, it's like, she's just not there's not enough good roles for her and, like, the type of roles that she could play. There's not the amount of opportunities and people making those roles,
Yeah.
it's
I
just
don't
not
know
there.
if you watched or if you're even familiar with the existence of G20, which was like it's one of the
Is that a
it's
show?
it, no, it's a movie. It's a Viola Davis led movie that came out this year on Amazon Prime, one of the most successful
Yeah.
Amazon Prime
Oh, wow.
movies ever. And it's her like as the lead in an action film. She like plays the president or something, but she like kills people with guns. And anyway, so
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like, she's doing
Yeah.
like kind of like street, and
Weird.
I think it's been reported that she's going to be doing another Amazon Prime original action film. But it's like these
Yeah.
movies are, the
No, but
cultural
I
footprint might not exist, but millions of people are watching this stuff. Like she is a movie star in
yeah.
a lot of ways, like which is very uh
Yeah, it's just
notable
I
for
know it's not I
someone
mean, I
like
don't know
her.
if
But
knowing's the right word, it's just there's not and
yeah,
it kind of
I
it
would
happens.
like to see her lead not G20
Yeah, and
on
it happens
Amazon
with I
Prime.
think it's an up top issue. It's like, the people making the creative decisions aren't, there's a lot of, like, old white guys and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah, it's a problem. Speaking of old white guys, but the opposite of the bad kind.
okay, one of the good ones.
Yeah, James Cameron is set to write and film, or no, to write the film adaptation. Sorry. Of best-selling novel *The Devils* from author Joe Abercrombie, a dark fantasy epic
Mm,
centering on a special force of monsters enlisted to save Europe from a scourge of flesh-eating elves.
yeah,
This sounds
Jimmy,
interesting. I'm assuming he would be directing this, but would he? It only says
he
he's
I
writing
did
it.
he write Alita? Battle Angel?
Yeah, I think so, right?
So, I don't know.
because
We are entering
I
an
guess he could just be writing it.
we are entering an interesting career point where I almost feel like a lot of the Avatar stuff is already written, right? Like they kind of know where they're going with Avatar. They just film a lot of that stuff. So he's taking on projects that aren't Avatar and aren't Terminator and aren't Titanic related. So he's old and he still wants to do things, but he wants to do things that are not Avatar. But Avatar takes a
Yep.
lot of time of his day. So this and there's another product as well.
Yeah, but just penning a script for something. Yeah, I get. I mean, listen, I think he's such a talented writer. I think I've
Mhm.
said this before. Obviously, like what I like about it. I
Yeah,
just rewatched The Abyss recently, and we talked about that on last week's pod. It's like when you watch The Abyss, you're like, this. I mean, this guy is a brilliant, right? Like he's known so much as like this blockbuster guy, and obviously as like the
yeah.
director of these blockbusters. But it's like he writes most of these movies, and he is good at doing it. Like, he's a very talented writer. I thought you were gonna add something. Sorry.
No, I mean, yeah, he is. He
I
is.
know that was the end. Okay, another piece of double news. Little big actors to watch in upcoming franchise films. Ryan Coogler confirms that Denzel Washington will
Oh
be in
shit.
Black Panther 3. And then in addition, my boy Killian Murphy will not appear in 28 Years Later, as we've known and talked about before, but will
Yeah.
apparently make an appearance in the next film, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DaCosta, followed by an even bigger role in the third 28 Years Later film in the trilogy. Uh, which one of these excites you more, do you think?
Remember when everyone was like, "Is that Killian Murphy?" Is like the
And then it was
dead.
just like some random
It's
guy.
like a zombie. No, I don't care about these things. The
Really?
Denzel news, we kind of, I mean, we knew for a while because Denzel literally said, "I am in Black Panther 3." And then he was
Right.
like, uh, I didn't even see the second one. I haven't even seen any of these movies.
Okay. 28 days later, I think
I
you will
haven't seen
actually
any of
like.
these things.
I think
When
I
does
think you
it?
will
Because
like.
like that movie's coming out in like a week or so.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, we're talking about it pretty soon, so you're actually gonna have to watch it.
Jeez,
Um,
Louise.
I think you will like 28 Days Later. I still have to watch 28 Weeks Later, and I'm planning on doing it soon in these next 2 weeks. But then we'll get to 28 Years Later on the pod when that comes out. I will say there was a new trailer for 28 Years Later that played in my theater 2 nights ago when I went to see Ballerina. I don't know if did you see a trailer
Yeah,
for
I did.
28
And
Years Later?
that's a really creepy voice.
That that trailer, I thought, like, rocked. Like, I watched that trailer and I was like, I'm already pretty excited for the movie because I like 28 Days Later a lot, and it
Yeah.
feels almost like they're tapping into, like, something good here where it's like, "Oh, we're bringing back." And again, Alex Garland right now, just so out on him, but it's like, if this is what we need to pull him back in, it's like, take him back, like, send him back to writing, let Danny Boyle direct instead, like, get back to the roots of, like, something like 28 Days Later, which works so well. I was mostly on board, but then I saw this trailer and I was like, "This movie looks fucking awesome, actually." That trailer is so first of all, it's just a good trailer.
Yeah.
It's so creepy. I was like, this looks like genuinely scary. I was like, this looks fucking awesome. Like
Okay.
I'm very excited now. I'll say. Now that we're getting closer to it, I'm excited to rewatch 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Killian is so good in that movie. I think I do think you'll like it. It's like it's funny because it's shot on like a fucking iPod. It's like shot on a camcorder, um, but I think you'll like it. I can't tell you whether or not you'll like 28 Weeks Later,
Mhm.
um, but I don't know. I think you'll end up a little more excited for 28 Years Later after you watch
Okay.
28 Days Later. Anyway, I'm excited to see Killian and the future ones. I guess I'll just it's not the worst place for him to be. There's he could have been in the Harry Potter show. Um,
It
so
still
we
can be.
okay. Well,
They didn't cast Voldemort yet, did they?
I know. Let's just
Voldemort casting.
another piece of double news we've got here, second to last piece of double news, and this is what I was referring to with the Zach and Cody thing. Two pieces of upcoming possible children's movies. A Care Bears movie is in the works at Warner Bros. And more importantly, in reference to Zach and Cody, Camp Rock 3 is
Oh,
reportedly
yes, I
in the
did see
works.
this. I did see this. Wow, Camp Rock.
Yeah.
What a
Apparently, based on the article, they would be not bringing
separate
back
movies.
any of
Camp
the
Rock
main
and Camp.
cast.
Yeah. Wait, what? They're not bringing back Demi Lovato
No, I think this is going to be new Camp Rock,
and no
new
Jonas
age Camp
Brothers.
Rock. Maybe. I don't know. I guess they could still be in it because them being like teenagers is not the point. But Demi Lovato's a little too
Yeah, I guess like it's
not a
weird. Like,
teenager
what are you
anymore.
doing? It's
Yeah, which
maybe
also
she's like,
means no Allison Stoner, which sucks because I love
what has
Allison Stoner.
Allison Stoner been doing?
She's married and dancing and like having a great
She's
life. She's awesome.
dancing.
I watch her. Yeah, she's a professional dancer. You know,
I
I watch
don't
her
know.
TikToks all the time.
Stoner.
Because she's in the Step Up movies. So I'm very I love Allison Stoner.
Oh,
She's
she's been at Phineas and Ferb is back, so she's been working.
yes, yeah. But no, she still works. But like she's just she's awesome. I
Yeah,
watch her TikTok. She seems very cool.
Camp Rock.
She seems like she's really enjoying life. She's got kids, I think, and
Mhm.
anyway, shout out Allison Stoner. But yeah, Camp Rock 3. Or are you more excited for Care Bears? I'm excited for Care Bears. I can't lie. I'm
It's live
excited to
action
see
Care
my
Bears. Live action Care Bears.
oh god, I don't know. But I want to see my favorite little sunshine bear on the big screen. I love the sunshine bear. Do you have a
Love the
favorite Care Bear?
Sunshine Bear.
You don't
No,
have a
I'm
favorite
not. I
Care
was
Bear?
never a big Care Bear guy.
Yeah, I guess that was like 500 years before you were
Yeah,
alive.
I was aware of the Bears, but did
Okay.
not have a personal relationship with them.
Okay, fair enough. Our last piece of news. This is a real like hydrogen bomb coughing baby Care Bears to this.
Okay.
Um, not in terms of like quality, let's say, but just the piece of news. Uh, Jacob Tremblay to star as Ted Kaczynski in Janusz Metz's Unabomb for Netflix. It will follow Kaczynski's transformation from
I mean,
Harvard
really,
prodigy into
you
the infamous Unabomber.
you meant
It
it
will
with the
also
bomb.
star Russell Crowe, Shailene Woodley, and Annabelle Wallace. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, he's got the look, so
okay. When I first saw
from
this, I tweeted
flounder
about this,
to the
but I
Unabomber.
was like, Jesus Christ, dude, why are we? I know why we're making a Unabomber movie, but like, oh man, that's just
Mm,
uh, what a piece of news. I thought it'd be good to
what a
end
piece of cake.
on that one. Are you excited for Unabomb? Also, the name Unabomb. What's going on, man?
Unabomb.
Are you excited? Netflix
Unabomb.
original Unabomb.
It's a what? Alice original?
Netflix original.
Well, there's like,
With
it's like
Jacob
Max.
Jacob Tremblay.
It's like Jacob original.
Yeah,
It's like a Steve original.
it's like a Poob original.
No, that's
Me and
not
my
really what I
girlfriend.
was saying.
Oh, okay.
Try again.
We like to say Poob. It's like that. Never mind. Uh, let's wrap up there. Next week, episode 122. We're gonna be talking about Celine Song's new movie, Materialists,
Oh wow.
and possibly another movie, but I think we're gonna focus on
Yeah,
Materialists.
let's focus. Let's keep our focus.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. We'll see you later.
Shallow.
Bye. Shallow.
Doug is sick in jail.